Good morning, Bitcoin. This is a project. This is a show that we tried to delay, and we tried to get more guests. We tried to get more things going, but Bitcoin cannot be delayed. We are taking you live to the price of Bitcoin, which is 99.52. We are waiting on the sidelines for a potential break into Bitcoin 10K. We've had a little bit of a touching Bitcoin 10K. People have written articles about the Bitcoin 10K. And sure, we all know that we're going to Bitcoin 10K, but here it comes. They're telling me in the chat that it's 10K already. They're saying 10K to 100K by the end of 2018. They say press refresh. Oh, we're still at this. Want to change exchanges? I mean, we could go to Bitfinex. Right now, here we go. Got a little bit of a pump. They're saying 99.89 on GDAX. We are holding very strong numbers in Bitcoin. And we're going to be inviting you into the show. For those of you who just joined the World Crypto Network Slack, which you do by DMing me your email on Twitter, we are monitoring the price of Bitcoin. They've got it high on CoinMarketCap. They're saying it's high on Kraken, Bitstamp. We are still with Bitstamp. We are watching good old BTC Wisdom, the chart that I've been watching since they took down Clark Moody. Or maybe this was Clark Moody. I think Clark Moody became this. I don't know. And we used to watch the old Mt. Gox charts. They have the BTC-E price for historical value there at the top. They also have a broken Litecoin when BTC-E broke on Litecoin. So I'm going to need a new charting website soon if they don't fix the top of this website. Everyone says that they should buy. I'm watching the chat. We're at 374 live viewers. Just ask everyone to give us a thumbs up and a share. Remember, you're watching the World Crypto Network. It's a team effort, and you're all on Team World Crypto Network. And I thank you for your support. We're still watching. It's 99.56. They say there's a large sell wall. I see there's a 16 Bitcoin sell wall up above here. That's pretty good size these days. And we're seeing that the 1 hour candle may be worked out. Let's move into a tighter candle to make this a more exciting chase. We're going up to the 30. Ooh. Thanks to Dan Williams for the $2 donation. We appreciate your support here at the World Crypto Network. And we are going to be inviting the chat in. We're inviting the rest of the guests. See if we can get some more people on the show. But right now, we are just watching the price. They say it's not happening. Well, everyone will have our bets against whether it's not going to happen and how soon it's going to happen. The suspense is killing Hextor. Vendi Vinny says, should I buy more right now? They're all saying they need the whales on Gemini to stop blocking. And then we're interested in the B Diamond, the B Cash, the B Gold, the rest of the prices. We're looking at the volume. We did have a pretty good sell a little while ago. If you look at the red volume down here, we're seeing about 144 buy right now in the volume, which is pretty average lately. It's going to take more than that probably to push it over the top, but we're looking at it right now. Let's see. Should we add in more guests? Thumbs up. B Cash Plus. Is that a new one like B Classic? B Classic? There are so many forks now. I like the names. But we are sticking with the Bitcoin price. And what else is going on today? Frustratingly close, like his old piano teacher. Now remember, 10K is a big number. It's a psychological barrier. A lot of people have set their sells at 10K. A lot of people are going to buy houses at 10K. People have a reason on why they're going to sell or why they're not going to sell. But what we have to assume is that the volume out there is new people buying Bitcoin. It's banks, it's Wall Street, it's fund managers, and they're just going to get their Bitcoin before 10K. They're thinking to themselves right now, I could get Bitcoin for the cheap. And they're going to try to do that now. Whereas everyone else, they're going to get their Bitcoin after 10K. They're going to say, oh, I wish I got some before 10K, but I was just waiting on the sidelines. Because there's this great book called Crossing the Chasm, and they talk about the different kind of adopters, and they talk about startups. And in Crossing the Chasm, they talk about the middle adopters. And the middle adopters is a very large group of people that you want on your side, but the middle adopters won't join until the early adopters have joined. And that's what Bitcoin has kind of gone through: the early innovation phase, then it went through the early adopters phase. And I think right now a lot of people want to say that we're ending the early adoption phase and we're starting to enter the middle adoption phase, which is going to be very exciting for the price of Bitcoin and very exciting for the number of people in this, which is going to bring us more companies, more action, more resources, and just more Bitcoin, which is what we're all looking for. So we're checking the old charts right now. We're still at 99.41, and we are looking for some new guests. We're looking at Blake Anderson might join us. I'm going to put a call out now. We might get this guy, Rhett Creighton. He's a famous Bcash denier. Oh, no, he's not there anymore. And we're looking for the Vortex Show. And we're also, if we could just break 10K, we'd just change this into a celebration. We're going to invite in the audience. But we're trying to keep it kind of low key as we casually break 10K. Because you don't want to break 10K too overtly. You don't want to, mess that up. But, randomly message some people and see what happens. That's the magic of this. So. And just as you should magically message some people as well, give us a thumbs up and a share. If it's your first time here, please subscribe down below. We have about 60% of the people watching the show subscribe and 30% don't. So we're always trying to grab those new 30% and say, hey, we talk about Bitcoin all the time here. You might like it. And we talk about some other cryptocurrencies too, but mainly we talk about Bitcoin. That should be a message. Yeah, Richard Hart, he's fun. I'll get it on Twitter. I'll send him a message. But I haven't seen Richard in a while. He had that devastating interview with Bruce Fenton. What did you guys think of that yesterday? That was quite something. I also enjoyed John, Bitcoin Era Log. He was good on there as well, with the old Roger Ver. Very dramatic interview. I think we had John in the chat. Maybe John's on Twitter. See if we can get John in here. Until then, we're still at 99.51. We seem to be kind of locked in. We'll have to see how that goes. What do you guys think in the chat? Oh, Rage Quit number 1, Rage Quit number 2. I know, it would be great if we could get John and Richard both in here at the same time to tell me what it's like to get 2 big guests to Rage Quit. I'm sure it's something that I could work on it, but it's not something you want to happen. But it is something that happened, so shout out to both of them. Really interesting shows. It was great to see John's show really broke out on his channel. It had about 60, 70K viewers. It's funny, his previous episode had about 500, and then he really broke out with that. So you have to see how he follows that up, if we can get a big guest. Actually, I think John and I might play some video games together. I can help him follow that up, get him some subscribers going over there. But let's see. We're sending out some invites. Should interview Craig Wright next. Oh boy, John would get under Craig Wright's skin. He's very famously short-tempered, famously angry. The angry fake Satoshi. But yeah, that would be great. Yeah, John should thank Rogers for the viewers. Sanok Movement says he's correct on that because he blew up after that. Let's see. We're also, does anyone want to read the chart? Anyone in the chat, tell me about the chart and I will read what you say. But it looks to me like we're going up. If you look at the middle section here, if you draw like an average line in between this, it just keeps going up, up, up. So if you bought Bitcoin and you hold Bitcoin, I think you'll be fine. I think everyone should focus on just holding a little bit of Bitcoin, telling all their friends. Richie Rich says the chart's going to 21K. They're saying we should switch to the Bitfinex chart. I'll give that a try. I don't have a dog in this fight. I just like the little charts on Bitcoin Wisdom. It's always been a nice chart. What reason would we go down right now? Well, remember, psychologically, we're trying to hit 10K. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to sell at 10K. So that would force the price down. And then there's just, mainly that's it, psychological price pressure versus increased demand. If you're sitting out there and you're a large wealth manager or fund manager and your goal is to buy, I don't know, $10 million worth of Bitcoin, you can't buy it all at once, right? You have to wait till Bitcoin dips. People are willing to sell you their Bitcoin, then you can buy them up. I believe that eventually Bitcoin will hit the point where Wall Street and governments begin getting interested. And then it becomes something where you and I have bought it as a kind of a joke commodity, this little toy that we're playing with. But when Wall Street and the government start buying it, they're going to buy it in a totally different way. They're going to buy large tranches of Bitcoin. They're going to want a percentage of the market, and they're going to want to try to get their percentage at the lowest possible price. That's why I think when it dips, people buy. So that's why people are talking about on Twitter things like the strong hands. And if you have a job and you don't have to worry about it, you have an investment in Bitcoin, you can afford to lose it, you can be those strong hands. And you don't have to worry about selling all the time and buying the dips and buying the lows and trying to time the market, which a lot of people can do, but a lot of people go crazy trying to do. If you can just hold your Bitcoin, I think you'll be fine in the future. We're at 99.23. Looks like we're taking a bit of a dip. We're on the Bitfinex chart. We're going to go ahead and zoom in. Maybe we can even thicken up these lines a little. Let's see, make this chart a little bigger. Let's see. Ooh, big jagged red line. Now remember, the green line here is the possible up with the sell walls. We can see where people have set up. Obviously here around the 10,000. See, even with the 10,000, people have set up their sell walls at 99.87. They know what I'm talking about, that this is a psychological number. And if we have the volume, if we have the buys, we're going to blow through it. And if we bang through this psychological number, we'll go to 12,000 because that's the next psychological number. And then we'll see if they can stop us, if they can put the sell walls up enough to slow the rally and to make people change their mind. And then they start selling and then it goes down some more. But right now we're still at 99.27. Waiting for a breakout. This last previous run to 99.77 looked good, but we're not quite there. We're retracing right here. Looks about the halfway line of this run. If we look back to the previous run and the previous run, we're still trending upward. Let's zoom out a little bit more. Ooh, look at that. It's a roller coaster upward. Each spike seems to go up a little bit more. Going back some more. Yeah, I wouldn't bet against Bitcoin today. But eventually, you do have to sell sometimes. And when you sell, what I suggest is selling in smaller amounts, not selling 100% and then having zero, maybe selling 70%, having 30%, 50%. You have to sell in different proportions based upon how bad you think the turnaround is going to be or how good you think the turnaround is going to be. But right now, I think we're still going above. I'm going to keep it open. We're at 99.20. I don't ever remember Bitcoin being in the 99s before. What could you buy with $9,923? I used to say, gosh, I wish I could buy a laptop with a Bitcoin. I guess you could certainly buy at least 2 or 3 high-end MacBooks with $9,000. You could buy a MacBook and a PC. You could open it up. Oh, they're saying you could buy a car. You could buy marijuana. I used to be able to get a pound. I don't know. Could you get 2 pounds maybe? 10 laptops, they're saying. You could get a lot of iPhones and tablets. There's a variety of computer equipment that you could get. I'll bet there's one more thing you could get. You could get a sectional couch. probably for even less. We're joined by Blake Anderson, who's live from the sectional. Look at that. How many seats there must be?
Yeah, there's a lot of seats. What's up? Yeah, I wanted to jump in and share my anger today. I'm so angry today. I mean, Bitcoin is just being killed by the experimental leadership of Blockstream and Core and Adam Back, and just, I just imagine how much farther along we would be in terms of price had it not been for those goofballs. So
we obviously need more transactions. When I look at this Bitcoin network right now, I say merchant adoption, transactions, people eating in restaurants. That's the ticket. That's a big time internet commodity.
We need to measure a whole bunch of zero fee transactions too as volume, and then use that as a reason to state that we're better than other things.
Yes, we're definitely seeing a big run for Bitcoin. 99.10, 99.20. It's fighting out the 99s right now. I wonder what it feels like to be Roger and to have sold so many Bitcoins at I don't know, what was it, about 7,000 he sold, I think.
Yeah, I'm in the Thorin Oakenshield camp of when he gets crazy with the dragon sickness, and they tell him, let's share some of the coins with somebody else. We've got so many of them, and he looks at Bilbo and says, "I shall not part with a single coin." I think that's a good attitude to have with Bitcoin.
They're saying to watch GDAX because it's higher. We're on Coinbase right now. It's 99.89. It doesn't look as active. Let's see. I'm not seeing GDAX on this old-timey page. Maybe you guys, ooh, that is some bright horribleness. Okay, there we go. Let's get back to something. Ooh, look, Bitstamp actually 98.99. The slow one. But we want more excitement. Oh, look at these. Ooh, there we go. 9,800 on Bitfinex. We've had a major sell, a psychological round number sell, and let's see if they're going to buy it up. Right now, we are seeing if they buy up the psychological sell. Look at that big red line, huh, Blake?
Yeah, when averaged across exchanges, we just went from 999 to 995, so 990. Yeah, so it's swinging and went from 9998 to 9958, now back to 9978. So these waters are choppy.
Saying something in the chat about Finex had 40,000 coins taken out of it. Coin market cap is reporting 10,109. GDAX is at 99.50. And people believe the bubble's popping. People believe the sky is falling. They say GDAX is selling off. Remember, these are all about the round numbers. If we're going to break the round number of 10,000, it might take more than this small volume that we had. If you look at the bottom here, we see the volume was up to 578 and rising. This is higher than any of the previous peaks except for this green one that we had here. Looks about in the 750s. We had a previous sell-off of 650. We had one of 680 here, and then two greens of 670 and 600. But it looks like this large scale 630 sell is continuing to rise. But the question is, will people buy it back up? This looks like it's out of proportion with the rest of the chart. Don't you agree, Blake? This is a large red line.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to see a dip, which I will buy. I don't think it's going to be an extended winter. I mean, it could be, but what I'm seeing is the troughs are getting more shallow and more brief. So the last time we had a correction, I bought the dip as hard as I could and did really well from it. And I'm going to do it again on whatever dip this ends up being. And the way that I insulate myself by buying dips is you buy on a dip with the thought that you're going to hold for a long investment horizon, and that makes you more comfortable, because people get really uncomfortable buying and selling dips and peaks and troughs and stuff. So you can kind of make yourself relax a little bit with all that if you just decide to hold on a longer horizon than just trying to make your ephemeral money. Peace of mind and earnings both are well affected by that position, I think.
The chat seems to agree. They think this is one person selling off. They think that everyone should hold their strong positions and that they should buy this dip. No one seems deterred by this. We've seen a 100-point swing from 99.77 down to 98.42. That's a 130-point swing in about 5-10 minutes here. Bitcoin is just the most active and most exciting market on the planet. Don't you think, Blake? This is really something.
Definitely, it's a super active market. It's down to 9942 when averaged across exchanges. So it's fun to see with the Bitcoin average and then also whatever exchange you're looking at to try to figure out where, because you've got point data, then you've got range data. And with just point data, I mean, we've heard like there's prickly and there's goo people, waves versus points. I like to try to get the prickles and goo involved in trying to figure out where the price is going to go.
Now the chat's going back and forth. Some people believe there's a correction coming. Some people believe that we're just going to blow through this and continue going up. I believe, you have to sell. If you have to sell, do it at a 70-30 or do it at a 30-70. I mean, don't sell it all. Don't move it all at once. Don't panic. It's really easy to panic. And it's really easy also to, in hindsight, believe that you could have bought all the highs and all the lows. When I look at this chart, my mind says, oh, I wish I'd sold at 99.77 and I would have bought at 98.40 and I'm so smart. But remember, the chart only shows you the past and you never have the right timing. Sometimes there wouldn't even be enough liquidity there in some of these smaller markets. But I think with Bitcoin, you just got to hold. We're now seeing a small green candle starting to appear. We're at 98.68. And the question is, are people going to buy back the coins that were sold in this last big red candle?
My strategy for trading Bitcoin is definitely take the macro scope of information, the wide, long view, and then hold on long horizons. And then those pieces of information and that investment strategy seem to mesh really, really well. People that do ephemeral trading based on long-term information don't do well. And people that do long-term trading based on ephemeral information, they don't do well either. So you have to make sure that the type of information that you're getting and that you're processing is good for your style of trading.
And just remind everyone, this show is sponsored by coffee. So get yourself a cup of coffee right now. I've got iced coffee with caramel in it. Blake's got his banker's mug there showing support for the other side. And remember, we're also sponsored by the World Crypto Network. Check out our new webpage created by The Vortex. Thank you to Jeffrey Jones. And look, you can donate Bitcoin right there on the webpage. You can scan this QR code. You can subscribe. And if you DM your email to @MadBitcoins, you could join the World Crypto Network Slack, where we talk about all these shows and where we work together to make new shows. You could join the team.
What happened to the Vortex? I saw him online earlier.
He was on earlier, and we invited him to this show, but we haven't seen him yet. We could ask the rest of the chat to join us, but we were really hoping this would be more of a celebratory show. And it's become more of a chart watching show. We went out to see the whales, and the whales are seeing us.
I just wanted to come on and tell you about how angry I am about Adam Back specifically. Goddamn Adam Back inventing his goddamn Hashcash. Fucking Adam Back, man.
Hashcash is a cool name. It's like Bitcoin Cash.
I wonder if he would get really mad at you if you called it Hcash.
If you called it Hcash, he would slap you across the face. I got to meet him recently in Prague at the Hacker Congress at Paralinzi Polis. And Adam Back is like an English gentleman. He's a classy guy. The funniest thing, he came in, he was hanging out. He was going to go to the restroom. We're like, oh, no worries, you can leave your bag here. And he's like, no, I can't leave my bag here. We're like, oh, we get it. A lot of people are like that in Bitcoin. I know a young couple that won't let their laptops leave their side. They believe that if they let them drop, that some group is going to install things on them. But maybe that's going to happen anyway. I don't know. It's so hard to keep a clean computer these days.
Well, it's funny. Luke Dash Jr. is recently talking about how Best Buy has certain policies where, like, we'll help you with your warranty information based on certain circumstances. And Luke was like, well, I need to destroy this hard drive, and I also want my rebate or warranty on it or whatever it was. And they're like, well, you can't destroy it. And Luke was like, no, there's been Bitcoin keys on this hard drive. Like it's going to be destroyed. And they were like, you're not, eligible for the replacement plan and stuff. So I thought that was an interesting thing, like an interesting information nugget to glean out of there, that if you have enough, value consideration and keys that have been at one point on a hard drive, you have to destroy that hard drive.
Well, and I also think that's something to note with paper wallets and even with ledgers and Trezors. If you had a Bitcoin investment that was worth about $1,000 and now it's worth $10,000 or $100,000, you might want to split it up into 2 or 3 ledgers. You might want to get 2 safe deposit boxes. You might want to get a safe at your house and a safe at your grandmother's house. I mean, whatever you're going to do with your keys, you probably want to split them up. You want to do a good job with your key management, keeping them safe, and you also don't want to just keep them in one place.
We were talking about this the other night in one of the chat back rooms, and it's to the point where if you have a lot of money in Bitcoin now, you need to break it apart into multi-sig wallets and then give the keys to like different attorneys that don't know each other, so that they have to come together in a plurality in the event of you dying or something like that. Because a lot of people, if something happens to you, like your family isn't going to be able to figure out how to get your stuff. Mine will. My wife knows how to get to my accounts and stuff like that. But even that was a little bit lazy and a little bit risky. So now we've transitioned over to, my attorneys need to be consulted and then come together to get keys out of cold storage. It's not just now that somebody can come and harass me or my wife. It gets to a certain point where you have to take certain risk management strategies not to put your family at risk because you've done well. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but like it's super important. Don't get yourself in a situation where your family can be put at risk and then people can get value.
Well, and it sounds pompous. And I remember when we talked about Bitcoin and it was $300, but there's a potential here with Bitcoin for generational wealth. And you want to make sure that you're not the generation that dies with this wealth. And Pamela Morgan's been doing a lot of great work going around telling people about this project, because I know a lot of people, computer people, we think we're going to live forever, or at the very least, they're going to put our brain in a jar. And of course, our brain could then consult with you to give you the password to our very complicated private keys. But maybe that's not going to happen, and maybe something's going to happen that we can't control. And it's much better to have your Bitcoin fortune in a fashion that your family can get to if something happens. And there's all kinds of complexities with this, with the ledgers and the Trezors and the PIN codes and the 13-digit, the words, all the nonsense, but you've got to figure something out. And remember, like Pamela said, she's a lawyer, but she also said, if you just write down a piece of paper and say it's your will and you sign it, that's just as good. That's a good start. You don't need a lawyer to get down a piece of paper and say, hey, if I pass, I got this much in this account here with this password, I got this much in here, and you can seal it to yourself in an envelope, or you can have it, couriered or lock it in a safe. You can keep it away from people, but at the same time, then you could give someone a key and you could say, hey, if you have a problem later, here's how you can get into some money to help you out. And you could be grandpa that bought a Bitcoin and save the whole family. Or you could be grandpa that bought a Bitcoin the family could never get into. And then they always had to watch the value of that Bitcoin going up and curse that grandpa. And every day I guess one of the 4-digit pins to try to get into the Trezor. That's my job now.
Well, you could just be like, there's always money in the banana stand, and then have somebody be like, all this paper stuff that you left me, I threw it into the fire. You'd be like, they were paper keys.
I thought people will always have to look through my stuff now because they'll think that he hid some Bitcoin in a book somewhere. So all my notes are going to be looked through. Everything should be examined now. It's a beautiful thing. You could go out as a graffiti artist and write the random words on a wall, and then someone could say, hey, those words are a Bitcoin wallet, and they could import $10 off of your graffiti. There's all kinds of possibilities now, and it's really fun. It's fun stuff.
What we're doing is we're in a simulation right now. We're way in the future, and aliens are simulating our time of reality, and you and I are simulated so well in terms of knowing and understanding, because the aliens went back through and tried to find Bitcoin stuff and everything that we ever did. And so our simulations are programmed really well.
I do think it's possible that we're repeating the same scenario like with Neo and the Matrix. And that not, and again, I'm going to go off canon here. I'm going to talk about the second and third film, but when they had that thing where they're like, "Oh, the Matrix is a control program that we've been running you through over and over again," and it seems like we're getting better at it. It feels like we're doing it faster this time. Because I mean, having gone through the internet revolution with BBSs to dial-up networking to broadband networking, having gone through MP3s, through Napster and FTP servers to iTunes and all this beautiful future that they helped create together, and then to go from MP4 files and compressing videos to YouTube and torrents and also streaming like Netflix and Amazon. It's been fantastic, and it happened so quickly. 10 years ago, no one had iPhones. This is it. Now everyone has an iPhone or an Android. And what we're going to be saying to ourselves is that 5-10 years ago, no one had Bitcoin. And now everyone has Bitcoin.
We need to get DeSantis in here so he can tell us about the different dimensions that are going to collide.
We will take some invites on Twitter. If you guys want to tell us right now in the chat, who should we invite to this chat? We've invited a lot of people, and they say that everyone is in this great Pacific time zone that we're in. But I'm not seeing it.
Maybe we can get John Carvalho in here. Let's get Bitcoin Error Log in and do a debrief of the debate. I think that would.
I sent an invite to him, but he is in Romania or something. And let's see. But he's probably sleeping. DeSantis, no one seems to know where he is. Richard Hart, no one knows where these guys are. So we don't even know what time zone they're in to try to bring them into this kind of thing. And then remember, we were officially supposed to be watching the price of Bitcoin, which is $98.95. If you look at that big red line, we've already dipped back out of that, which means that people have bought it. So one guy was like, all right, we got close to 10,000. I'm going to sell mine. I'm going to get some of mine out. I'm going to, take that profit. It's going to be sweet. And that guy did it. And now he's got his profit and he's happy. But then the rest of the market was like, Bitcoin for under 9,900? That's cheap. I'm buying that. And they bought that right back up. And now we're looking at these little green lines. We're watching the 5-minute candles on the Bitfinex exchange have already driven us back up to 9,900. We are $100 away.
Well, and averaged across exchanges, it's back up to 9,974.
9,974 on the exchanged average.
So on the average exchange, it's 9,974. I was watching the prices the other day, and when we hit 9,500, a whole bunch of shorts came in to try to correct down to the bottom of the band, and they all got just fucking power wrecked. It was just like, all right, let's hang all these shorts onto the dragon and try to have it go down. It just cast them off into the wall and kept going up. It was the most. I think it was the most shorts I've ever seen wrecked at once.
That's a lot of shorts.
It was pretty funny.
I'm inviting people named Charlie to the show. Oh, they want let's see, Krista Rose. He's fun. They want Roger Ver. Blake, do you want Roger to come hang out with us for Bitcoin 10K Live?
Yeah, I'll see if I can trigger him.
He might curse at us. I'm going to give Roger the old Twitter invite, the best that I can give to anyone. So we'll see, guys. Keep those suggestions coming. They want Satoshi in here. Blake, can you send Satoshi?
I'll go ahead. Yeah, I'll ring up Satoshi. Well, if Roger comes in, he'll probably want to talk to me about how he's a millionaire and he was a millionaire before Bitcoin. And I'll be like, yeah, but you also went to prison for a while in the pursuit of those millions. So I don't think that you got through as scot-free as maybe you think you did.
Well, I think he'd say that it's more about the finish than the getting through scot-free. I think you have to go through hell to get to heaven.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I don't know, with the explosives and the whole actually physically going to jail, like that doesn't happen to every entrepreneur.
Yeah, I don't know very much about that story. I'd like to know more. I heard recently that maybe 9/11 changed the laws and then he was selling illegal explosives. But then the big problem, illegal fireworks. I want to be clear, they're not explosives, they're fireworks.
Weren't they like road flares or like deer flares or something like that? Like they had explosive properties, but I don't think they were proper explosives. They were like some.
I think there was also a problem where he might have been storing them in his home, and his home was a shared apartment building, and you just can't store that kind of stuff in your home.
Even in
But I'm
Ancapistan.
sure if you wanted to tell us more about that, we would welcome Roger. And
Vortex.
in his ideas. We're joined by the Vortex. How's it going, Jeff?
Oh, Thomas, after 2 years, I still can't pronounce my name correctly. It is Vortex.
I don't know what that means. Why doesn't Trace Mayer come up when I type him in on Twitter? That's what I want to know. Oh, because he doesn't follow me because he doesn't follow anyone.
Yeah, he doesn't follow anybody. He and Vortex both went down to the super conservative.
What's his Twitter name though? I don't seem to follow him at all.
Let's see.
At Trace, because I'm trying. Oh well, people.
Yeah, I kind of went super conservative to to basically highlight a message and bring awareness back to the reason why Bitcoin is here, back to the reason why we're all here, and it's not to get rich quick, and it's not to start the next ICO. And it's definitely not to get celebrities into starting ICOs. It is to change money, people, to put money back in the hands of the people where it belongs, where it has not been for 1,000 years. Instead, it's been on the kings, and it's been in the banks, and it's been in the governments. But it's now time for the people to take fire from the gods.
Vortex, we know this is all about getting Mayweather and Paris Hilton to shill ICOs. That's why we got involved in all this. Us nerds.
I thought you were going to say getting Mayweather and Hilton to fight. I was going to be with you there for a second. I was like, oh man, Mayweather's got the reach, but Hilton's got the claws.
That would be like Celebrity Deathmatch, if anybody remembers that. Like the fights are always so short. Like they would talk up to the fight for so long, and then it would be over all at once. Man, that's probably showing how old I am.
How are we doing on the price here? I didn't even look.
We had a run up to 99.77. Then we had a turn back all the way down to 9,800. Now we are back at 99.05. We are seemingly continuing to go back up.
Yeah, we are at 9,987 when averaged across exchanges.
Had a minor correction there, it looks like. Yep. Yeah, sorry for my tardiness
to sell. He
needed some money. Sorry for my tardiness there, Thomas. I was working on the website. That's what we're doing now. We just launched
brand new worldcryptonetwork.com with Bitcoin donation address, which soon will update to SegWit, but instead we're doing this show right now instead of doing anything useful.
That's right. So Thomas, why is your screen so small?
It's a laptop. I don't know.
Oh, it's a laptop. Okay, yeah, there you go. It looks a little bit wider. There, I was just wondering, like, why is it?
Now I can only see half of your face.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, make it smaller again. That's fine. But yeah, the website is we did launch that today, and you guys can check it out. Give us some feedback. It is responsive, so it's supposed to work decently on all the devices out there. And so we already got a little bit about feedback of some bugs and stuff, so we fixed those. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. We're looking to try to give some competition to the big freaking companies like CoinDesk and all these large corporate. Kind of corporately run news sites for Bitcoin when we want to really focus on Bitcoin news and stuff about Bitcoin instead of just all these ICOs and things. So we're going to give it a shot and see how it goes.
Dude, you got to be like a Bcash dev. Whenever there's bugs with the website, you got to go, no, they're better than any website.
No, I just got to push changes to the whole entire ecosystem that are, that nobody can test. Before
and they can check this out at worldcryptonetwork.com.
You have to sign the bill. You have to vote for the bill so that we can find out what's in it.
Well, look, all we got to do is sign our name to it, right? I mean, if the CEO's taught us anything, why do we need PGP at all? Why do we need digital signatures at all? We can just sign our name to stuff on a mailing list. Works fine.
And we have 1,162 viewers. We're watching the price live on the World Crypto Network. Be sure to subscribe down below. We've just had a breakout to 99.20, 99.95. Here we go. They're fighting it down. We're at 99.21. Look at that. But look at that 99.98. Look at that. We just had a spike. Very exciting. And now if we look at this green formation on the left, it now looks like the green formation is going up. We have
9997 on average.
9997 on average.
Beautiful.
We're popping the champagne.
So as soon as it goes above 99
across exchanges, 10,000 when averaged across exchanges.
Beautiful. As soon as we hit over 9, basically, okay, we basically just did. Well, as soon as we hit over 9958, well, we just did. That means we're going to go higher because that's higher than the previous couple candles there. So yeah, we're about to go up. We should hit 10K pretty shortly.
All right, and I'm going to invite the party. Everyone that was added to the World Crypto Network chat is going to be invited into this show. So everyone, if you're listening on headphones, turn your volume down, get ready.
Yeah, we're gonna have some people who we're gonna do some sound check live. That's what we're gonna do. Some live sound checks, people. Should be a good time. But yeah, no, Bitcoin was already hit 10K, of course, you know, many hours ago, averaged across exchanges, and then took a little bit of a dip there. But now we're back again, and yeah, it's very exciting times. To me, much more exciting than any football game. But then again, I am a geek, so take that for what you will.
Well, Bitcoin is like the Hulk, because I think that a lot of people would expect, you know, okay, the Hulk is going to make it to 10K, and then it's going to rest back down somewhere else for quite a while. But for the Hulk to get to 10K, to try to correct out again, and then shrug off the correction and go back up above 10K so soon. I mean, that's good. People are saying, you know, it's the CME that's doing it, but I think it's a concert of factors. I think that the macro concert of factors of, you know, the 100 trillion in unfunded liabilities for fiat currency versus, you know, this new math-based scarcity. I mean, I'm betting on the new math-based scarcity hard.
I mean, this is absolutely. This Bitcoin has proved itself this year to fight off everything you can think of, from China completely closing their exchanges to, the rise of Ethereum earlier this year, and all of the freaking forks. I mean, it was nuts. This is proving it. Bitcoin has completely proved itself, and really, this is the year of the user. Absolutely.
And people used to say to me, what do you do every day on a Bitcoin show on Mad Bitcoins? How can you find enough news every day? And I used to do stories like, this country's taking Bitcoin, or these guys got a Bitcoin ATM. And these were huge stories to me. And it was a big deal when any company would try to take it, or any website would take it, or a new plugin. Any kind of these things were huge. And now every day we're seeing Fortune magazine, Forbes, CNBC, business.
Front page of the Financial Times, baby.
Front page of the Financial Times. Years ago, you know, we couldn't get the Financial Times to give us any attention, although they did mention the World Crypto Network in their hallowed pages. We were officially defined like the Oxford English Dictionary in the Financial Times. But, you know, things are going really good. We're at 99.65 on Bitfinex. We are sticking with the Finex. We are above the average on the average exchanges, but you can see that spike there to 99.98. And if you look at the next green little tick next to the spike, we're in about the middle, maybe 70% up of that spike. You can tell by that we're going up more. It's a flag formation. Imagine that. It looks like Mario Brothers. It's a flag.
Yeah, and I think it's just important reiterating like how much the World Crypto Network has really helped with these user movements this year. For example, the user activated software. You know, we were there. We were a little bit late, but we were there and trying to help people, trying to help the grassroots movement, try to bring awareness to it. And, you know, we were there for the No2X. And so we really are super proud to have you guys with us, and super proud to have, in our opinion, kind of won these battles for Bitcoin. You know, not us personally, but everybody. We helped, and everybody else helped, and we all benefited. So absolutely amazing. So who do we got here? Mr. Cody?
Hello, guys. How's it going?
Hey, how you going?
How it goes, man?
Good. Well, I think I had multiple tabs of videos open. That was kind of crazy for a minute.
So then what do you think of this 10,000, Cody? Well, first, maybe let's introduce yourself a little bit if you want. Tell us who you are.
This is unreal. Yes. So I'm out here from Vancouver, BC, joining you guys for the first time. I just joined the Slack today. Wonderful, wonderful news about 10K. Super excited about it. Just unreal.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Who else we got here? Mr. Tristan? Can you hear us? We got no audio from Tristan, so we shall await him.
I think it's funny that Vortex was talking about the different battles in WCN's role therein and stuff, and it's like, we're on the wrong side of history every time. We apologize for always being on the wrong side of history. Hopefully, people will look back at this apology and know. No, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's been pretty.
Okay, Roger Ver. Sorry, I heard you apologizing. I thought you were Roger for a second.
Well, and even when we are wrong, and even when the price disagrees with what we said, we always admit it, and we always express our opinions honestly. This is what we think about Bitcoin. Sometimes we're wrong, sometimes we're right. Ethereum, a bunch of the altcoins of the ICOs. No one knew how big this thing was going to get. I almost called it a bubble, but that's rude. I don't want to be rude to them, but sometimes I do. But all these things have been fun and exciting to go through with you guys, and it's great to have the audience with us and to have more people join us. So Cody, do you think, are we going higher or lower Bitcoin 10K?
Oh, I think it'll go up a bit, but I think it's going to be a psychological thing. I think maybe we'll see a big sell-off above. Yeah, it gets in people's heads.
Well, here's the question. Like, how long, though, will this sell-off last, right? Because they continue to last less and less time every single time. If you look back at the chart, it's just dun, 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 straight up. So, like, question is, how long will the correction last? Because we know there's going to be one. But how big will it be and how long will it last?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like the SegWit announcement had that dip right after and then just shot straight back up. We blew through 9,000 so fast. I don't, like, how the hell did that happen? So it's really interesting to see. I think it might be a smaller dip than we expect. I mean, news today of hedge fund people saying 40K by end of 2018 and things like that that's also pushing psychologically. I think it's pretty cool.
All right,
we got Jesse.
Jesse, can you hear you?
I can hear you guys. How's it going?
It's going good. Welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks for having me. I'm a longtime Bitcoin lurker. I've been watching you for years. I'm really proud of all you guys. A lot of this has to do with you. So yeah, thank you guys so much. So informative. And I want to echo what Vortex said earlier because I'm big on this point. This is about Bitcoin is about principles. And those principles, I think it's important that we stand by those in the face of 10,000. I mean, I don't want to tell anybody what to do with their money, but I can tell you I'm not selling because this is just the beginning of the battle. And this is a battle. And we've kind of faced a lot of it this year, kind of the adversity that is going to be hitting us from all sides. It's going to get worse. It's going to get harder. We got to hold strong here because this is about something much bigger than turning $100 into 10,000. This is something much bigger than that.
You tell me it's we can use Bitcoin for more than coffee purchases?
Yeah, I think maybe gum
way.
is not what you want, not the goal you're kind of going for here. But yeah, I just wanted to jump in. Thank you for inviting me, and I really just wanted to thank you guys because it means a lot, and I think ultimately it's going to mean a lot for everyone on this planet. 5-10 years from now. I mean, this is so important. So this is just a small benchmark that we're meeting here.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, man. That's I'm humbled. That means a lot. Thanks, man.
Thank you, man, a lot. And 2018 is just going to be a big, huge year. If you guys just saw the Honey Badger conference and even the Breaking Bitcoin conferences, there's just so much. And then the scaling, there's just so much on the way, guys. So much amazing optimization on the way. Things that you can't even think of, like lightning on lightning on lightning, people. This is really going to get crazy, the amount of things that are coming. And really, Lightning is the big going to be the big winner of 2018. I think there's just so much development going on, and there's going to be a whole lot more as Bitcoin price continues to rise and businesses continue to need the Lightning Network even more. So we're just really excited about exchanges using this, about businesses using this, about companies using this. I'm just really excited about the alpha launch, coming in December, early December. So you guys, it's going to be huge, and so many things on the way.
I wanted to say really quick, I agree with the spirit of the other comments and about the principles and stuff of Bitcoin. And I tweeted this the other day that Bitcoin is not a joke or a hobby to me. Our greatest accomplishments must not be behind us. And then there's this video about the mind and about motivation and about using our critical thinking facilities to actually move towards positive versions of the future. And I think that definitely is a huge part of the value add that Bitcoin brings to all of us. And I think it's such a macro value add that sometimes people don't understand it, and or when people talk about it, people get a little bit freaked out.
Absolutely. Principles.
It's also really easy to get caught up in this get rich quick thing. I liked what Jesse said about the principles, and thanks for the kind words about WCN. And I think it's not just us, it's also the open source programmers. It's everybody that makes YouTube videos, everybody that tweets, writes articles. We're all in this together. We're all spreading the good word about Bitcoin in our own way. And I think we've been incredibly successful, and we're going to continue being incredibly successful. Roger was calling Bitcoin a product when he was talking to John Carvello. And in a lot of ways, Bitcoin is a product. and we get a little religious about it. We get a little movement-y. But if we think back to Bitcoin just being a product, what a great product. How lucky we are to own a little bit of this and to have the ability to talk about it and to essentially sell it and to promote it and to say we live in a free enough country where you can promote an alternative form of currency and an internet, a new idea. We live in an internet that's still open to new ideas and allows the ideas to flow through the pipes freely. We might lose that soon. But like Andreas always says, we could always encode all of our Bitcoin transactions in cat pictures, and we could put them on catpictures.com or maybe Pinterest, or a company that would pay for us to use the fast lane for our Bitcoin transactions. We could just download them from Pinterest.
Decentralized publishing is so valuable, and I think people can understand why decentralized publishing is valuable. People can do things like record the Roger Ver interview, and then like the Hoffman video making fun of it can come like right afterwards. And that decentralized publishing makes it so that things can flow that quickly. But you also want to have a decentralized set of experts that talk about Bitcoin. You don't want to have it just be a couple of people. You need the influence and the participation of all the people that are watching this show and the people that sit on the sidelines without getting, too, all about like, oh, look at how regal and powerful and kingly I am over this space. People need to be humble and sit at the sidelines and tell the truth, and so that we can get meaningful consensus from real diversity of thought. And that is an extremely important part of having experts in this space, that they really are diversified among a group of people that doesn't become too centralized and become too controllable. It's, I think, a huge thing.
Well,
as
that's
adoption
what's been
goes up
so
with
great
experts.
to go to these, not to say Bitcoin only conferences, but more Bitcoin focused conferences, and to really hear from these speakers like Breaking Bitcoin and the Hacker Congress at Paralindsay-Polis. And then I also think this Baltic Honey Badger event sounds like a really great event. I really think I missed out there, but I hope to see the talks online soon, and I've enjoyed all the tweets from everyone that attended. When you can get those Bitcoin experts together and they share their knowledge, their views and opinions, people like Peter Todd and Adam Back and Eric Lombroso, that's when we get things done. That was when we get those new ideas, we get the juices flowing, and I'm excited to see more and more of that, and hopefully less of the ICOs, which are interesting in their own right as companies, I suppose, but they're not so interesting as a technology.
Absolutely. I mean, we've come such a long way, this year. It's really amazing to see. And what I really love watching and seeing is people thinking long term. That Roger Ver interview you brought up, Thomas. I mean, clearly, they've been basically trying to bootstrap like a 1080p on a dial-up network. We have infrastructure, so much infrastructure still that we have to build out, and Lightning is going to be a big part of that. And it's just so strange that these CEOs put their bottom lines before the community, before this thing that is Bitcoin, this thing that we call Bitcoin, that is just so much more than any individual business, so much more than any individual. It empowers the individual, and the decentralization is so important to keep. This is really, really, really important. And there's been a lot of discussion this year about who decides what Bitcoin is, right? And I think we've seen who decides what Bitcoin is, right? It's the users, it's the community, it's the people wearing the No 2X hats, it's everybody that said like No 2X in a chat room. And this has really been amazing and so humbling and to watch. To see the community react like this, to serve the actual principles, to really bring light to the principles of decentralization, censorship resistance. This is just the foundation of what Bitcoin is built on, and it's so great to see the community come together and really appreciate that. And we have to continue to tell all these new people coming in, because remember, we have so many newbies on newbies on newbies. There is just thousands, if not millions, of new people coming into the space. We have to teach them the principles. That's something, Thomas, that you mentioned the Honey Badger conference. That's something that Andreas and both Adam Back and Andreas were trying to say. We have to get these principles not just in the English language, but as many languages as possible, because these principles are so important. These principles are what's going to outlive us, outlive our lives, outlive the WCN, outlive everything. And so in order to keep Bitcoin preserved, we have to preserve the principles. And it's just great to see the community fight for those.
Well, I agree, and I think that
we had a bit of a dip there at 99.20, went back down, went back up. And I also wanted to mention, before I'll go back to Blake, there was a great tweet recently by Alan Silbert, who's Barry Silbert's brother. And what he said is, BitPay and Coinbase, where is your roadmap to activating SegWit? When can we do cheap and inexpensive transactions on Coinbase, the #1 transaction place, and BitPay, probably the #2 transaction place? I would like to hear from these companies. The SegWit2x is over. We need SegWit addresses on Coinbase and BitPay. Go ahead, Blake.
I forgot what
He's talking about new people, and we got noobs on top of noobs. And we need
Noobs
to give them the principles of open source and science and discussion and Bitcoin and sound money. We need
just
to
wanna
go
say
back
something
in
real
time and watch all the old videos again.
I think it's really rare that principles get to align with profit. I think that's a great selling point for noobs that are coming in. That, I mean, how many times in life do you get to make out financially while supporting a principle that is as important as this? So just
That is a great point, Jesse. When I put my savings account into Bitcoin, I should have lost my savings account because I believed in Bitcoin. So when I put my money into something I believed in, I really shouldn't be rewarded for that. This is a very rare thing.
And it's just crazy. Oh, sorry, Blake, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to say that I agree with Vortex in terms of these principles and these sets of ethics are very, very important, which is part of the reason that some people scoff about like a Bitcoin degree or a Bitcoin certification, and they instead try to encourage autodidactism and polymathic learning of sociology, economics, and computer science, because short of really studying the hell out of those three things, some type of, like the scope of what you would need to learn to understand Bitcoin is really wide. It lends itself very well to the need for autodidactism, self-learning, trying to be a Renaissance person. So I think that that Vortex is right. The undertaking of a lot of the people that are contributing to the source or to the project is to try to make it so that people understand the source of these ideas of ethics and of what the problems were with the legacy systems and how we're moving away from those in very specific targeted areas to make it so that things improve. So I think that that's a very interesting observation by Vortex.
Yeah, and it's just, so many people on Twitter throughout the past few years that I've been on Twitter have been like, you're clearly all the things that the only thing that matters in Bitcoin is profits. The only thing that matters is money. You're clearly going to be rich one day if this is successful. So, and I'm like, I keep trying to tell people it's not about the profits, but this is an amazing thing that it's true. The principles are aligned with the profits, which is absolutely rare. But I try to not, try to tell people don't bring attention to that. Understand what the real motives are behind Bitcoin. And that's why I follow just the Federal Reserve on Twitter to try to tell people and bring them back and remember, look, this is why we have Bitcoin, and it's not to get rich.
You went full Snowden.
I'm going to jump off here, guys. It's been great to join you. I jumped into a shared space for some quiet, and I think it's going to get taken over, so I better jump off.
Well, it's been a pleasure, man.
Pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Cody. We hope to see you around again. And it's been great watching the charts with you guys. We're at 99.35. There's some mixed opinion in the chat. Some people don't think we're going over 10K today. They think we're premature. We have certainly touched it here with the average, like Blake said, but we're not seeing a real big breakout. But others are people are saying 12K in the chat, 15K, 17K. What do you guys think? Is that too much?
20K Christmas. We got to get Richard Hart in here to get everybody fired up.
True. We should get Richard Hart in here, actually. It's been a while since we talked to him. And
let me see if I can raise him.
It was just hilarious to watch his Bruce Fenton interview the other day. That was absolutely amazing. And the contrast, the polarization, the complete opposite of their delivery styles was so apparent. It's just, you have one guy just panting and breathing and yelling and not stopping talking, not listening to what Richard is saying. And then you have Richard like literally not only listening to what he's saying, but repeating what Bruce was telling him back to him, and then telling him why it wasn't that way. And then here goes Bruce just and when the one time that he brought up something crazy to try to illustrate what Bruce was doing, like he started saying like, hey, Nazis and Hitler, and Bruce right away was like, what does that got to do with it? And Richard was like, exactly. Come on, light bulb, people, light bulb.
That was a great show, and I also liked it for the differences in video quality. Richard has such high quality to his standards and his setup, and then poor Fenton, I think he had a technical issue with his laptop, and he might have been on his phone, so he had to hold it. He wasn't really prepared with his hair or his T-shirt. He just wasn't really ready. And then, but I do think the ideas were there. And regardless of the differences in presentation, and you know, that's one of the tricks that I think Richard has, is he has such a strong presentation. He puts Fenton in a little box and Richard's in the giant thing, so we can see Richard's reaction. We can see his facial expressions. A really strong presentation.
But remember, like,
there,
Richard, but Thomas, real quick, sorry to interrupt, but remember, Richard, like, the whole time just was calm and was letting him speak. He never overpowered him, right? He just let him bury himself into his own grave.
He really did well, and I think what you always want in a debate is you want your opponent's best argument. And Richard had several, ideas for solutions. We could pay the candidates more, try to get better candidates. He had other ideas that he was bringing up, whereas Fenton had this perfect or nothing, no government or nothing. He had a really a whole strategy there. So, it looks like Jesse's got to take off. Cool, Jesse. Let's say, go ahead, Jesse. Say goodbye to the people and tell them where they can follow you on Twitter.
I mean, if you want to follow me at Twitter, I'm at the Design Flaw. So, yeah, thanks for having me on. We'll be celebrating this soon enough. So, if we don't hit it today, I mean, it's just not a big deal. But yeah, thank you guys, and I'll be listening.
All right, thanks, Jesse. And we'll be seeing Jesse in the new World Crypto Network Slack, which you can join if you DM your email to @MadBitcoins, and I'll invite you personally. And we're just hanging out in there. We talk about cryptocurrency, and we work together to make shows. We're looking for people who make Photoshops, make graphics, code websites, people who like to tweet, people who like to chat, people who like Bitcoin. We even like people that like other things, but you gotta defend those things. And it's easier to defend Bitcoin, I find. We're at 99.50. We've seen some ups and downs, but if you look at the trend of that green little mountain there, we're going up still. So we're going to stick with this. We're at 1,323 live viewers. That's a lot of people. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. And we were talking about Bruce Fenton and libertarianism. Is the perfect better than the good? Or should we be pragmatic like Richard Hart and try to improve things on a point-by-point basis?
Well, that's the thing. People try to make these apodictic statements about how reality is or isn't, like these praxeological statements about like how things are. And that's fine when you're a libertarian talking to other libertarians, but I feel like as a libertarian, the other libertarians really need to start practicing knowing the difference between negative and positive rights, between liberties and entitlements, exactly where the issues are, why the issues are, how those issues can be avoided. And I feel like Bruce was using arguments that are well received in his own community, outside of his own community, and we really saw it backfire on him. I like Bruce a lot. I have the same worldview as Bruce, but it was hard for me to be on his side with the types of arguments that he was using, the way that he was using them, when it wasn't like you're not in your clubhouse using your own secret language when you're in a debate with somebody that's from the other clubhouse, and you have to respect that. And I think that Bruce lost sight of that a little bit, which is no like serious criticism. Not everybody is a logician, but at the same time, it's it made it really, really tough to take his side.
Yeah, it's true. And I don't know if that's true with all libertarians or not, because again, we all agreed, Richard and you, Blake, and me, I think even 99% of what everything with Bruce was saying. It's just the problem is that he put everything in a false duality, right? Everything was black and white with Bruce. I mean, there was not a damn thing in the middle that he would agree to. I mean, people have to understand, look, there is a good gray and a bad gray, but there's a whole shitload of gray. There's a whole lot of gray people. This is, and I have with family members too, they're just like, oh, you're loving government again coming in to take away your freedoms. And I'm like, look, there's almost every single law was put there for a reason. Most likely in the event that the law was created, somebody died. Okay, that's the way it is. All laws are there's good laws and there's bad laws. I mean, Richard just nailed it so hard, so well, because you can't have a completely lawless society. If you like that, go ahead and see what that's like. You live in another country and find out how well that works when somebody comes over and tries to rob you, and see what happens. Look, I don't want to sound like a statist. I don't want to be a statist, but at the end of the day, we have good laws and we have bad laws, and for hopefully we can repeal more bad laws and create better laws.
Yeah,
we have the idea of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. A lot of the anti-statist people seem to want to start over again at zero. And I know how much we've gone through to get to this progress, and how many codes of laws we've gone through, and how many wars and all these other things. Starting over at zero is not good enough for me. I'm fine with editing the current system. And I think part of this here is a problem of futures. In the 1950s, we used to believe in a technological future of the year 2000 and flying cars and robots. And the problem is that didn't work. The reality was we got a Cold War, we got the Vietnam War, we got the breakdown in the 70s and 80s of the economy, we had the 90s, and then now we're here. And we got the technology, but we didn't get the flying cars and the robots. And what's more important is we lost the positive worldview of the future. The new worldview is a darker one: terrorism, zombies,
idiocracy.
Well, idiocracy is real and scary, but the other things are scary enough on their own. Being the zombies is the fear of the other. It started out as a commercial metaphor in the shopping malls, and it expanded into, I don't want to horrify you, but an immigration metaphor. Especially the scene from World War Z. I've read the book, but not the movie, but there's a scene where the zombies use their bodies to pile up to get over the wall. That's the metaphor for the third world coming to the first world. People who don't have see the people who have, and they're going to come and take some of it. And that's fine, but then the problem is that the boat sinks when we're all on it, and everyone fails. And that's part of this is a myopic view where we had a two-party world with the Cold War, and you were either with us or against us. Whereas what we need, and I know this is hard because we don't want a globalist view, but we do need a world view where everyone's a brother and a sister and we all work together. And I know everyone just freaked out and all their communist, socialist buttons just went off, but I'm talking at a very basic level. Everyone has a mother, everyone has a father, and that we all want well for our children. And that's a JFK paraphrase. But Blake, go ahead. Tell me, am I right or wrong? Am I the ultimate socialist here?
No, I think that your overall goal is very appropriate. We want to have every single individual person have their autonomy respected and be able to have social mobility and stuff like that. Like, everybody wants that. The ways that we go about that vary pretty drastically, but I think that that's more or less what people want. And the libertarian view, I think if it's articulated correctly, is like, I think libertarians would say, no, that's minarchistic. You're not a libertarian. But I would contend that they don't know what they're talking about and that I do more. And what I'm thinking people think of when they're thinking about Ancapistan or anarcho-capitalism is they're thinking no laws, no rules, no regulation, just all competition. But that's not really the case. I think it's really more of a dial back to just the core root of the word of law. You can't violate other people's negative rights. Positive rights need to be grounded in mutual assent-based contract law, and the number of rules and regulations and laws that comes from that are the appropriate number. Once you start to add more laws and rules and regulations to that, you're actually making negative progress and allowing capture, which is the birthplace of monopoly and stuff like that. So what I think that Bruce was doing, he was arguing for something that he in his mind can see would be better, but I think that he went too far, or maybe doesn't understand exactly how to actually legislate that type of society into law. So there is a framework of law that keeps people protected and things on an even keel without going way too far and making too many laws. So it's probably the most boring thing I've ever gone through and said on the show, but I think that that's the appropriate view.
Yeah, it's crazy because, I mean, Bruce could never articulate, and I think a lot of libertarians can never articulate how to get from A to B. How do we get from A to your amazing, lovely land where everybody holds hands and, there's no government and everybody just does what everybody's an angel? How do we get to that freaking land? And it's kind of crazy, but this is why we love Bitcoin, because it really does support the individual sovereignty. This is what it brings.
Weaponized agorism. Agorism is the way to try to take money away from things that you see as bad. Like if there's a big war economy and that's using the dollar and they have to print money and you're like, all right, I'll withdraw my consent and I'll use Bitcoin. You still have to pay taxes and stuff like that. But the more that you empower Bitcoin by using it and try to take your, money and value away from something else, Bitcoin is like a weaponized system of agorism, which you can use to try to, bring the scope of control down to the most reasonable level so that everybody can, have individual autonomy, every man, woman, and child on earth.
And I think what's important is to highlight is that, look, what we don't want is negative progress, because that's what you'll get if you do nothing. That's what you'll get if you'll just say, oh, you know what, we can't do it, so the government will just take us out. They'll put their boots on my neck. It's over. we can't think like that, people. We have to believe that there's some hope. Remember, there's so much gray out there, and we can't have negative progress. That's the one thing that we don't want to do. The only way to make progress is to work with what you got. You have to work with what you got and do the best you can with what you got. And if you just throw out the baby with the bathwater, if you just give up right away, then that's it. Negative progress, it's over. Because remember, if you do not act, you will be acted upon. And this is how our society works. If you just sit in the corner, then you will have your laws created for you. You will have your you'll have everything. You'll have what television shows to watch, what to eat, how many kids to raise, and you're done. So take a stand, get some education, learn your history, buy some Bitcoin, and maybe you can help not be part of the negative progress.
And pop out some kids and teach them shit, because all the stuff that we try to teach people on the internet, that's good and great, but like, you got to have some kids. You got to teach your kids like the right way to be a decent person and to save money and to, defend the future. I think it's really important that the people in this space that are prophetic enough to see what's going on, you motherfuckers need to be popping out some kids. You really do. So focus on that a little bit.
We're going to need more Bitcoin dating websites to make that happen. But no, I totally agree with what Jeff said about the progress and things we need to do. You need to have a list of what you need to do going forward. You need bootstrapping. A lot of the philosophy that I've enjoyed reading starts out, and it's something like, if we had a perfect world and we started again at zero, we could do this. And I think that's nice, and that's a fun thought exercise. And, you could write books about that, and you can debate it. But what I need something that works in the current environment. The current environment is highly owned. The current environment is entrenched. And the current environment believes in what it believes in. I need something that's flexible, that can like go in on the ground and can change and move. And that's what I got so excited about with Bitcoin, because I would sit there like a lot of you, and I would read about the Federal Reserve and how money was created and how inflation robs people of their savings if you wait long enough. And I got very depressed. I said, these are big, giant systems, and I'm a small person. How can I fight this big, giant system? So I started taking Aikido. And I learned how, as a human, a physical body, I can twist people and flip them, and I can fight them. And then I got into Bitcoin, and I thought about how we could take this money and by, just like Blake said, withdrawing your consent. Like, you don't have to hold your money in stocks or in dollars. You can hold your money in Bitcoin. And like Jesse was saying earlier, it's a risk. You took a political risk holding your savings in Bitcoin, and you got rewarded for it. And maybe those rewards have just started, as well as what Jesse said. I want to echo, the fight has just started. With this whole SegWit 2x thing, did you think the corporations and the miners were not going to try to take over Bitcoin? I thought they were going to try to take over Bitcoin. I've always been kind of, people need to get ready for a 51% attack. People need to get ready for rogue miners or selfish mining. All of these various attack scenarios that we've played out and discussed in detail, we discuss them for a reason, because they're going to happen. Right now, we're seeing a lot of positive reaction from Wall Street. We're seeing positive reaction from governments like the Japanese government, which pretty much legalized Bitcoin and encouraged it for their businesses to use. No one knows how the US government is going to come down. No one knows China's a real position or what they're really going to decide on. This fight is far from over. And that's why I think also the store of value versus transactional currency. If the strength of Bitcoin early on is transactional merchant-based currency, I know how to shut it down. I get the merchants not to use it. I legislate by law. And then suddenly transactional Bitcoin goes away. So your revolution just failed. Now, if the first use of Bitcoin is a store of value, and people are taking all this Bitcoin, putting it in Trezors and ledgers, putting it in safe deposit boxes, hiding it under their mattress, being really secure with it, not using it that much, I don't know how to shut you down, right? That's too distributed and too difficult to shut down, because people could always put a little bit of money in here and there into the Bitcoin, hold it in value. And whereas the other one's easy to shut down, I think we can do the transactional currency thing later. I think it's a question of order. What order do we do things in? And maybe that's splitting Bitcoin right now, like Jonathan Swift made fun of religion with the cracking the eggs on the side and cracking the eggs on the top. And we've had a whole split over what order we should do things in. But what do you guys think? Is that just it? Is it an order issue? Go to Jeff and then Blake.
Yeah, it's just really interesting, because how what we've been talking to does apply to the scaling debate, which is working, kind of working with what you have. But I want to just further define that a little bit more. It's not just about, for example, saying, okay, I'm trapped, this is the only parameters that I have. It's working with what you have combined with building something new, right? This is the big thing. This is bridging the gap. I mean, this is what we have to do. We have to have people working on trying to patch the old system to bring it into the new, as well as somebody working on the new system. This is going to take all of us. It's not just going to be one or the other. We are going to live together for a while. We all breathe the same air here. We all got the same 24 hours in a day. We're going to experience this all together globally. And, when it comes to working with what you have with the scaling debate, what are your choices, right? Your choices are to continue building this super secure system, going through this huge, long process to make sure that all the code is just right, or completely forking off and doing something different. That's your choices. And you can do whatever you want to do. Of course, this is a free world, but helping everybody, helping the community, you net much more positively by helping with what we have here, by helping the secure process, by helping creating the store of value. Because from the store of value, as Thomas said, all else can be built. You can build currencies, you can build lightning networks, you can build whatever you want. Hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. As long as that base layer is secure, decentralized, and censorship resistant. That's the keys.
Now let's go to Blake. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, it's weird. It's in the same category, so people don't think of the two things as far apart. So when we replace money, what we really need is settlement that works really, really well. And then settlement that works really, really well is at the top of the scale, and at the bottom of the scale is, highly transactional stuff like pennies. Replacing pennies that work as pennies and the settlement system all at once, all together, and having those be features that need to be brought together, that seems like a scope that's a little bit too wide. I think that Bitcoin needs to replace that super fundamental, very, very, very top echelon of there needs to be something settlable that is scarce. It needs to be legitimately scarce, not have a huge paper market that's never settled, that's fucking it up. We need some type of IOU and settlement that are fused together at the top. And I think that Bitcoin is that. And people are like, well, we need to modify what that is so that we can scoop up all of the penny transactions that are going along and around and stuff. And it's we need a separate system to do that. So is that what Bitcoin Cash is? A fork off that can do that? I don't know. I don't think it is. I think Litecoin already does that better. I think that there are problems with the development complexity of what they did to create Bitcoin Cash, to the extent that even if I was developing on it, I'd be like, I'm not really comfortable with the way that we excised a lot of this stuff. So I think that
they're especially in a weak shape because they don't have SegWit. They're essentially on a different branch of Bitcoin. They're writing a different book. And their book has to be different. And even if new chapters come out for the SegWit book, they're going to have to do a lot of conversion to get them to work with their system, which increases the chance for errors, increases the number of coders that they're going to need. The Bcash path to victory is very difficult, especially if you're going to go with this merchant idea. We've all I don't know, a lot of people I know, we go to every store and we say, hey, do you take Bitcoin? Hey, you take Bitcoin? It doesn't work. Companies have tried this, startups have tried this, a lot of people have tried this, and it doesn't seem to be going down. Whereas the store of value works. Like Blake is saying, people don't have a way to store their money, to put it on a shelf, and to come back and have the same amount of value be there. If you put 1 Bitcoin away today, there will always be 1 Bitcoin on that coin or that piece of paper or that ledger wallet. That's not true for any other currency. We want to thank We Smoke Bitcoin in the chat. He sent us $100. He says, this 10K is taking too long. Here you go. I'm going to start celebrating early with a nice smoke. And what does he smoke? He smokes Bitcoins.
That's right, smoking Bitcoins. But it's really important to remember that, Thomas. Really important to remember that the price going up to 10K here, that is far, more advertisement than the BitPay bull, right? Than the Bitcoin bull. Okay, we thank BitPay for doing that, right? We thank Roger Ver in the early days for trying to onboard merchants, but look, they clearly are trying to put the cart before the horse. How can you just have everybody in the world just change currencies just because it's a little bit cheaper to transact? That makes no sense. There has to be an underlying, fundamental, globally acceptable and understandable
I also think
reason.
it's what Blake said here, is that both Roger and Bruce, essentially, they're only talking to their own tribe. So, of course, to the libertarians, it makes sense to switch to this new money. To a computer geek, it makes sense to switch to this new money because we email it around. But everybody else needs an actual reason to go through all this work. It seems the reason is this get rich quick. But there's also other reasons. There's, useful reasons, the way that you can store your Bitcoin. There's technical reasons, the way that it's deflationary by design, not just during this spike period.
Look,
so this is like Bitcoin. I understand what this is. This is something that plugs in and then the USB comes out of it. This is like Bcash. What is this? This goes from what, USB to 1/8" stereo? What the fuck is that? Like, I honestly don't understand what this cable does. I didn't make it myself. I just found it somewhere. I'm like, this is like Bcash. Like, I don't understand.
But that cable is the future, and it is the original and real intent.
Yeah. This is Satoshi's true vision right here, from USB to 1/8" stereo, because that's a conversion that people really need.
And look, guys, look, we always champion innovation. We always champion, this global decentralized financial renaissance. But at the same time, recognize players for what they are. Recognize Bcash for what it is. It's a Roger coin. It's a China coin. It's a centralized oligarchy coin controlled by a few individuals with no replace by fee, no SegWit, no Lightning, no Schnorr signatures, no on and on and on. And that's fine if you know what you're buying. Okay, if you know you're buying into a dev team of 2 people who are not cited on any white paper that I know of called Bitcoin, then you better know what you're buying. It's that simple. And remember, we all want to have yellow Lambos and take pictures of it and tweet it out, right? But at the end of the day, what's more important than a yellow Lambo, I assure you, is individual sovereignty and freedom of choice with money.
Well said, well said. And we're also joined by Steven. Steven, can you hear us? Can we hear you? Let's give this a try. Where's a shot?
It's Shia LaBeouf from Even Steven.
I feel like Phil Donahue. Caller, are you there? Caller? That's a really old reference, but he's the classic.
My favorite is when Alex Jones accepts callers. If they don't say something right away, he loses his mind because he hates dead air. It's funny. We should all go and look up a whole bunch of clips of Alex Jones losing his mind at callers when this is done, because it's a fun time.
So I think we're in agreement that Roger, there isn't enough reason for other people to adopt the currency, but there is reason for people to store their value in something that they think they're going up, and we can work on that later. But now I want to, spoilers ahead, I'm going to predict the plot of The Big Bang Theory. Are you guys ready? We've seen the little trailer. We've seen a 2-minute trailer. Everyone knows that it's about the gang and that they mined Bitcoins a while ago and they forgot about it. So let's talk major plot points. Number 1, they find the Bitcoins. They're on some old laptop. Number 2, they've already shown it in the trailer thing. They find out that the Bitcoins are missing. Someone's taken the Bitcoins. They think it's Sheldon. So let's say Sheldon stole the Bitcoins from them. Then someone else will steal the Bitcoins from Sheldon. That person, a secondary character on the show, will be seen on a big vacation at the end of the show. That's my prediction for the Big Bang Theory plot. And remember, the best part about this is that Bitcoin's at 5,000 in the TV show. So anyone who watches the TV show and goes and Googles Bitcoin will say, holy smokes, it's 9,000. It's not 5,000. This is crazy. So you got to imagine that if you're watching the show, you're like, oh, 5,000, I should get some of this. And you go and check it, it's 9. Oh boy.
I had a really brief thing to say about that. I think Vortex has to get going, but I think that it's funny that Sheldon is supposed to be dysfunctionally intelligent. He's supposed to be like one of the most intelligent people possible. And to write that accurately, they're having him emulate the things that we in this community do. So I think that that's kind of funny to see mainstream culture finally deciding to figure out that we're prophetic.
Yeah, I like the way they wrote it in. These guys did it before. But let's say a quick goodbye to Vortex. Thanks for joining us. thanks for your work on the new worldcryptonetwork.com. Everyone can check that out. Donate Bitcoin. Give us ideas on what we can do to improve us. Give us compliments about how great it is. Very good, Jeff.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, thanks so much for letting me join here. I had a great time. I hope you guys have a great time watching 10K. I hope it actually hits 10K. This is actually the second 10K show that I've been on where it did not hit 10K. So that goes to show you can never predict what's going on with Bitcoin. So thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks you guys to the 1,000+ people who are watching. We had a great time. And until next time, guys, keep talking Bitcoin.
All right. Thanks so much. Jeffrey Jones, the Vortex.
The one Vortex.
No, the real Vortex. No, I forget. Now we've got to look it up. But we're at 9918. People are tired of me talking about pop culture. They think that I should be narrowly focused on computer science and programming, and that I've wasted my life by not learning how to code enough. If only I was single-minded into coding and not so broadly interested in things. Is that true, Blake?
I just don't tell anybody that I know C++. They don't figure out that I'm Satoshi.
That's the way to keep it under your hat. I've always thought that maybe I was Tyler Durden and at nighttime I was coding Bitcoin and I just can't remember. I keep trying to remember where I hid the private keys.
I'm heavily schizophrenic, but I don't think that it was used as a productive thing in my sleep or anything like that.
I think the keys are under the cat. They're under the cat mark.
They're inside the cat. You got to go do surgery.
But I do like reading, and I do like the way things connect. I was reading Billy Joel's autobiography, or it's kind of his autobiography. The guy did interviews with him. And you wouldn't think so, but Billy Joel connected right back in to my Europe trip and the things I've been learning about recently. Billy Joel's family had to leave Germany during the Holocaust. They were Jewish, they were business owners, and they basically lost their business to some Germans who took it from them. And they had a tough time getting it back afterwards. And there was a lot of close calls, and some of his family members didn't make it out. And this reminded me of what I learned at the Terror Museum in Budapest, Hungary. I almost didn't go to Hungary. It was pretty far down in my trip, and I was pretty tired by then. But I powered through, and at this Terror Museum, you learned how rough it's been for Hungary, how they had the Nazis took them over for a while, and then the Soviets took them over for a while. So they had a purge of all their Jewish people, and then they had a purge of all their intellectuals and their farmers, etc. It's a rough time, and I think that you want to read, and if I wasn't reading about Billy Joel, I wouldn't think about these other ideas. I wouldn't see them all connect together. There's something that happened that was magical once in college. I was studying the French Revolution in an English class, and I was also studying the French Revolution in a history class. So I was reading the books of the period while I was learning about the events of the period. And of course, I had the benefit of hindsight, so I knew everything that was going to happen. So I, of course, was, smarter than everyone. I knew this and I knew that. And, oh, if only I had a telephone and a time machine, I'd go back like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But I think all of these different connections can help you grow and help you learn. And like Blake was saying, Bitcoin is a thing for many disciplines. You need to understand technology and math, computers, the internet, decentralization, economics, deflation, even a lot of libertarian, I think, because the libertarian values are baked into Bitcoin. And this is a part of it, but it's not all of it. We're at 98.75. We seem to be dipping down. Is this the great rumored awaited correction? But Blake, go ahead and talk about what I talked about, the terror and the connection between things. We should learn more.
Yeah, the connection between things is very, very interesting. I think it has a lot to do with, Renaissance man or polymathy or autodidactism. The more that you learn about different things, like your example of learning about the history of France historically, and then also through literature, it starts to result in you are making conclusions and thinking critically based on strong information. And when you have strong information as opposed to weak information, the conclusions that you make are almost exponentially more valuable. It's also why it's great, like Vortex was saying earlier, when people like, Adam Back and I don't know who else, like Luke Jr. or whoever, like when people like that talk to each other, they are both like computer systems that are interfacing and then contextualizing their own data because they get feedback from another computer that is, working on at least somewhat similar stuff. So it's really, really, really interesting to study something that has slight differences that might, be history versus literature, but to be able to get strong information about a topic and then be able to think critically about it, that's extremely valuable. It's why people with double and triple disciplines aren't just a little bit smarter than other people. There's almost this like emergent complexity that comes out of their more simple areas of study, where they just know a lot more than they would have ever been able to understand through purely the sum of the parts that they memorized. So I think that, yeah, that what you're saying and noticing that on a less kind of scientific basis is definitely a good observation.
And that's what's great about the internet now too, is it allows us to make connections. You can read the Wikipedia article for another discipline. You can get a pretty good summary of almost anything instantly. And a lot of people ask me what I learned because I got a history degree. And obviously a lot of my skills are worthless now. There are no more card catalogs. No one goes to the library. Research was just barely transitioning to online when I went through school, but it also taught me a lot of how to think and how to connect different things together. And when I come to Bitcoin, I bring that history background and I bring that ability to read. One of the things you do in history is you read everything and then you try to pull the important points out of that. And that's the skill that you're really learning, is how to read and how to think. And it's a lot of value in that. And people don't see it. They want how to make money. And one of the things is the way to make money is to think and to see something that other people don't see. And that's what a lot of us saw in Bitcoin. We said, gosh, this is so good. How can we how can we miss out on this? How can we not buy some? And then we all bought some, and then we told all our friends, and we tried to tell everyone how good it is and how we could spread the word. And we all grew through this. And then now more and more people are getting into Bitcoin. You're watching the World Crypto Network. We're watching the price of Bitcoin at 98.80. It broke 1,000 for a little while on the average price, but it seems to be dipping back down into the 9,800s.
10,000.
10,000. You're right.
If it went down to 1,000, I'd be like, hold on, I need to go buy as much as I can possibly buy, and I'll be back in a jiffy.
10,000 need to get a loan. They're saying yes, you need to read a lot.
Well, definitely. I mean, thinking critically is what allows you to make money. It's what allows you to survive. It's why it's our advantage over the other animals on the earth. Like we are smart. We have to come out of the womb as a fetus for an entire year because our heads are so big. So like do that. Like think. For Christ's sake, think about shit. Like you really, really need to. And don't just think about stuff shallowly. Think about stuff critically. And to engage in critical thinking, you need to get enough sleep. You need to get enough nutrition. You need to be healthy. I mean, life is about survival.
Also, you need to find your tribe. Yeah. If your friends aren't talking about interesting things, you need to get more interesting friends. And if you can't find them near you because you live in a small town, you're really lucky now. We have the internet. You can make friends with anybody in any discipline. You just got to be kind, and you have to express who you are. And it's hard for people to do that because nobody knows who they are. I watched this great documentary recently called Jim and Andy, about Jim Carrey when he played Andy Kaufman in the Man on the Moon movie. And it was really great because Jim Carrey got so into the role. He acted like Andy Kaufman, totally out of control for, I don't know, it looked like about 2 or 3 months. And occasionally he'd act like Tony Clifton, even more out of control. And when Jim stopped, when the movie stopped and he's like, okay, I've gone on this incredible thought experiment. Very few people have the freedom to do artistically what he did, for his staff to like take him seriously, and for people not to pull him aside and say, hey, you're crazy, stop being in character, act like a normal person, for his girlfriend, for all of his family, for everyone to accept him going full off into Andy to truly become the character. When he comes back, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what Jim Carrey is. And he also feels like he had a vacation from his problems. And I'll bet he felt right back in his problems. And I know what that feels like. When I was in Europe, all I had to worry about was going to the next museum, finding a next couch to stay on, going to the Bitcoin conventions. It's very liberating to be a tourist. A tourist doesn't have any, backyard full of dog stuff. And a tourist doesn't have a leaky roof. A tourist just moves about the world. And we all kind of want to do that. But then these possessions, they slow you down. But they also are what allows you to build a base and what allows you to build more things from it. So there's a lot of contradictions in that.
There's a song by Julian Casablancas about feeling like a tourist, and I think it channels exactly the emotions that you were talking about the kind of freedom from the obligations of home a little bit.
It does. It does. Well, and you get right back in it, and you realize one of the interesting things you always think, oh, I'm going to go somewhere else and I'm going to be a different person. You just end up being the same person in a different place. You know, I watch the same shows, I read the same books, I'm on a couch, I'm on my bed, I'm in another part of the world, I'm here, I'm there. It's always you that you come back to. And that's why a lot of people, I really felt there was a negative attitude towards self-help and towards the idea of self-help. And there's a lot of cliches, and it's easy to say, oh, read 7 Habits and you'll feel better, or read Feeling Good and you'll feel better. And these are good books, but you do have to help yourself and you do have to improve yourself, and that you are the only vehicle you've got for experiencing this. And that if you're negative all the time, and I've been critical and I've been negative, that negative things will happen. And I try to be positive more often, even all the time now, and more positive things are happening. So I think you can turn this around as Bitcoin rebounds to 9,900.
Well, definitely, and I think that the like negativity is an extremely interesting thing to look at, because you have this voice inside of your head that kind of tells you what to do. And if you've had any type of trauma in the past, what that voice ends up doing is it kind of ends up becoming the person that caused that trauma, and it warns your brain not to do anything that's going to make that happen again. So if you've had bad experiences in the past and you haven't worked through them, there's a very good chance that those people's voices are stuck in your head, and they're telling you things in terms of, you know, risk manage this behavior and that behavior to zero, because they might get mad at you. What you need to do is you need to try to disassociate a little bit, look at your own life as somebody else that you would be giving advice to, and then try to follow that advice, put your own cognition, your own voice into your own head, and then, you know, deliberately go about living your life. And it makes you feel a lot happier. It's a very weird and deliberate, very kind of direct way of trying to deal with the issue of a negative framing of your mind, but I think it is an effective thought experiment, so to speak.
I'd just like to thank Venshin MT Gao for the $10 donation, and that I did hear him in the chat. I am trying to get the SegWit address up, but I'd rather talk all day and do shows. But I do agree with you, Blake. It is about positive attitude. It's about improvement. I see people in the chat are mentioning The Truman Show. I think that's a very good movie and a very interesting movie. Jim Carrey did mention that he thought all of his movies kind of were about his life. Another really good one by Jim Carrey, not as many people have seen, is Yes Man. Jim Carrey goes out there and says yes to everything. He tries a lot of new things, and then he benefits from them. He benefits from these new experiences. And it's MG Tao. I don't know. I said it wrong, but welcome anyway. Go ahead, Blake. So we're at 99.10. We seem to be climbing up again, but remember, 10,000 is a big psychological barrier here, and we are seeing the psychological effects of traders who are going to keep riding this range until it really breaks out. Then they're just going to get on board again for the 12,000 run.
Looks like it's at 99.82 when averaged across exchanges.
Very exciting. Almost as though Bitcoin knows that we're watching it. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle here. A watched pot never boils. That makes no sense, though. It always boils.
The waiting is the hardest part, to quote the late great Tom Petty.
Tom Petty. I wish I went to his concert. It's pronounced MGTOW. Okay. I know. I've watched some videos about MGTOW. I'm not sure about it.
Men going their own way, and I understand
going their own way.
I understand the grievances. I really do, but I mean, you got to try to find some woman that you can stand.
Anything that reduces the population of available men increases my odds, right? So, not opposed to that. But everyone can do what they want. They say there's a big drop incoming, and we're at 98.85. And remember, at each one of these big drops, it's just a decision out there. Do people want to try to buy up these Bitcoin as cheap Bitcoin that they can get below 10K? Or do they want to try to dump some Bitcoin now and maybe buy at a retrace back down to 7, maybe even a retrace back down to 5,900? but I don't think so.
That would be awesome. If I knew we were going to retrace to 5,900, I'd be like, let's go ahead and make some money.
Everyone's always saying that, but we never know anything. So now they say there's a big pump as opposed to a big drop. They say that Bitcoin is sexist. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why there aren't more women in Bitcoin. From a lot of different perspectives, I think money's interesting. I think women are involved in money in a lot of levels. I don't know why they wouldn't want to be involved in new internet money. It's kind of computer geeky. We have a lot of problems in like Linux and system administration. I'm not sure how many women are in these fields.
There was a big issue about truth in gaming journalism, and that didn't go really well. So I don't know. Bitcoin might be a similar space to the nerdy gamers that are like, hey, we don't want to talk about any of this stuff that doesn't involve gaming and game development or Bitcoin and Bitcoin development. So I don't know if it has to do with that or not, but it might.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not touching that Gamergate thing.
I love Gamergate. I love all of the content that came out and all the people that were discovered and Sargon and all that stuff. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to talk about in terms of let's try to contextualize our interactions as a society and figure out who's where and stuff. The modern history of the internet's really fascinating to me.
Well, it's been more and more interesting since it took the main place of pop culture, and that we are now the center of all these discussions, and something that goes viral on Twitter can become a big thing like this Me Too movement. We've seen that really take off as more and more accusers come out and more people are taken down. Bitcoin continues to buy back up from the 98.80s to 9,900. We're seeing a real battle in the trenches here with the trading. But what do we have in the future for Bitcoin, Blake? What kind of events are out there? Obviously, BitPay and Coinbase will someday have SegWit addresses if people ask them about it on Twitter. But beyond that, China currently has their exchanges in kind of a closed pattern. China could open that back up. That'd be good news for Bitcoin.
Well, I learned something new from John McAfee. Apparently, the halvening already happened. And there's not ever going to be a supply adjustment for Bitcoin ever again. The halvening happened. So, John McAfee really knows his shit, and he knows that the halvening already happened, and that
we do have another halvening in a few more years.
Well, no, not according to him. So
the Bcash halvening is coming even sooner because they printed more coins. They had that difficulty adjustment, which caused their halvening to move ahead of the Bitcoin halvening. So the halvening is a positive event in Bitcoin. We also have everyone's still waiting for a decision from the U.S. government. We've heard different things from different departments, if it's a commodity or if it's a currency. Obviously, we'd like it to be recognized as the currency of the internet, and that the internet is its own place. And for a long time, I think the internet has needed representation and ambassadors and rights and all of these other things, even if not to horrify the libertarians, not just to do that, but because we need to codify things. The way that we understand things is through the past. Part of the reason that people don't understand what's going on with Bitcoin and why 10,000 is just the beginning and 100,000 and $1 million and all these things are completely on the table here is because we've never done anything like this before in the past. We've never switched over to a totally digital currency with the existing system still around. This is like we were talking about bootstrapping earlier. I've studied revolutions, and there's always an initial phase, there's a revolutionary phase, and then there's kind of a reconstruction phase afterwards where you lose a lot of the revolution, right? You don't have the same spirit of the French Revolution when Napoleon is writing the laws. It doesn't work out. But Bitcoin is a whole package in itself. The rules of Bitcoin are in place. 21 million Bitcoins, a halvening structure. You can send blocks every 10 minutes. You can get your transactions across the network. They're one-way transactions. Those are the rules of Bitcoin.
I like to call it like an ark. It's like an ark that helps defend people against the flood, the global flood of debt. And honestly, I mean, this might sound a little bit cheesy, but before I found out about Bitcoin, I mean, I worked with banks and stuff and in IT security, math-based security and stuff. And like, I was depressed because I could kind of see the writing on the wall. So before Bitcoin, I felt like I was raised in a tragedy by slaves. You look at the debt clock and stuff. And then after Bitcoin, it was like, I was born in a diamond mine. Like, this is really going from one end of the scale to the other, from the initial end of the scale where it's like, how do I diversify? Everything is a scam. There's no way I'm going to be able to work hard enough to make enough fiat that my son, who has special needs, is going to be able to be taken care of. That's a pretty fucking depressing situation versus, pop bottles and hodl and things just keep getting better and better and better. It's I'm way happier than I used to be. It's I kip up out of bed every day.
Well, and it is an ark. It's a ship, and let's fully develop that metaphor because it has everything we need on it. It's not a thing that's like psychologically Bitcoin's already there. These basic rules are all that we need to take with us to go to the next level, to have new people be rewarded. It's all built into the system, and we can all ride it to these higher levels and maybe to a new and different society. I've been talking to friends about ideas like liquid democracy, multiple choice voting, ranked voting, choice-based voting, any kind of improvement on the voting system. Things like this with Bitcoin, we can build our own independent systems and then choose to use those. It's been years now, but Pamela Morgan used to give a talk about juries, and I think she's doing it again recently, about how we could have a kind of a superior justice system. If you and I were having a dispute over computer software, and we agreed instead of using the traditional jury system, we would use this advanced jury system, where we could actually have experts who understand computer software decide on our case, which would give us a better chance to have a fair verdict, a better chance for the truth, the value of the proposition, good or bad, to be understood. And that these kind of meta systems, a system on top of a system. People are like, Bitcoin, it doesn't have banks, it doesn't have branches or governments, it's not centrally controlled like a central bank. That's bad, but it's also just a representation of the new. Like what we saw with the internet, the MP3s, and then the video, is that when something new comes out and it can't be stopped, and that's one of the things with the internet and the computer, the whole computer, the copy machine. Once we start making copies, we can't stop. And once someone trains the computer to do something new, it can't stop doing that thing. Just like with the AI and the robots taking our jobs. It's not, will they take our jobs? It's when. When will they take our jobs, and what will we do then? And one of the things now is with Bitcoin, we could see potential for basic income. I think we can see potential for computer-controlled income and for basic percentage-based contracts, really simple smart contracts to send around funds. This is the excitement of the future. This is it right here at 9881.
Yeah, I mean, I think that eventually humans are going to have to help contextualize types of data that computers are horseshit at processing. So like Boolean logic, binary logic, computers are great at that. But like term logic or like Aristotelian logic, things that require assumptions and stuff like that, computers aren't good at that. So hopefully there'll be some type of balance between people having some type of income for work that's easy to do, which is then deflationary. Like in the 1950s, people used to be like, our technological processes are evolving so fast that what the hell are people going to do in like the late 90s and 2000s? Like, what are they going to do with all their free time? Well, we've allowed our medium of exchange to suck away most of that. But if we correct that, the amount of work that humans will need to do in the future to survive and thrive will be corrected in a large way. So it's hard for us to imagine that because we're in such a hyper corrupt swamp of dog shit right now.
And it's also about motivations, that people need to be motivated to do what they want to do. And the first step towards that is to even understand what you want to do, not just to be opposed. Like when I was working at a minimum wage job, all I knew is that I didn't want to work that minimum wage job. That's what I had learned. And that's a negative learning. I need a positive learning. I need to know what I like to do. And right now, this is what I like to do. I like to talk to you guys about Bitcoin. I like to watch the price, and I like to get excited about new technologies and give you my opinion. and we're rebounding. Looks like 98.99. There's another upward green spike, and we're seeing if we can destroy this 10,000 together. They're saying Monero is going to break 200, Litecoin is going to break 100. All the alts maybe are following Bitcoin up. Not sure. They're saying HODL is pronounced HODL. I'm not so sure about that. At the Breaking Bitcoin convention, my friend JJ, who won the convention by breaking Bitcoin, said that it's like pop bottles and HODL.
I thought that was the other guy that said that. What's his face? Eric.
I think JJ's the man with the pop bottles and HODL.
Maybe they both said it, but yeah, that's the only, like, that's where I get the HODL from, is that it rhymes with bottle. But yeah, I said HODL before I heard that, but then I was like, it's fun to say pop bottles and HODL, so then I started saying HODL. Yeah, it's just like own versus pwned and stuff like that. The more it gets under people's skin, the more that you say it the way that ruffles Jimmy. So
owned and pwned. They want to talk about JJ at the convention. Was JJ an asshole? There's a lot of different levels to this. Like, first of all, JJ's my friend, so I'm going to defend him. Second of all, he did break Bitcoin, so he won the conference. Although I'm not so sure that the conference was a competition. Maybe that was just me and him misreading it. But for those of you who don't know, JJ gave a presentation a few months ago at the Breaking Bitcoin conference in Paris. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend in person. And JJ demonstrated a vulnerability in Bitcoin. And no one knew about this vulnerability, although the core team did know about it, and they had fixed it, and they rewrote the database to fix it. And there's a lot of complications there. But JJ had said that he wouldn't expose the vulnerability, and then he did expose the vulnerability. And the problem with this is that not only were the fixes not deployed, but there are many other coins that also use Bitcoin's technology who could have been broken by this same attack. And they wondered if JJ followed the industry standard practices. And there's a lot of questions. And more importantly, he told the conference organizers that he wouldn't do it, and then he did it. So that's a specific problem of breaking one's word. One should never do that. So that's a down point. Not protecting the other coins is a down point. But then there's also this idea that information should be shared, vulnerability should be shared and fixed and patched. And maybe that's where JJ comes with. So there's different ideas there. Let's go to Blake. What do you think about JJ at Breaking Bitcoin?
I think that the biggest sin, was him saying, I won't do it, and then doing it. If you make a statement about what you're going to do, and then you don't do it, like that's really not good. Other than that, like, I don't have a lot of opinion, but if you say that you're going to do something, you only have one reputation, you only have one body, you only have one lifetime. Don't break your balls or your word for anybody.
It was certainly fun to watch. It was great to be there in person and to see old Peter Todd giving him the third degree. He asked the same question 2 or 3 times with different wording. That's when you know you're in real trouble, when someone goes lawyer on you and they start asking the same question multiple times with different words.
Yeah, definitely. And Peter Todd's is a sharp cat, so
he's a formidable opponent, that Peter Todd. I always like to tell that story about the metric system and how he lost that Mars probe. And to me, I always imagine it underground because that's where they told it to go. They told it to go underground because they didn't convert their units properly. But Peter Todd, of course, had to tell me the true story. The probe was going so fast it burned up in the atmosphere. It would have been an accomplishment to get it to the ground. We really screwed the pooch. But very much enjoy Peter Todd and his opinions on things. We're at 98.84. We're continuing to range in the 9,800s to 9,900 range. Might have to get some lunch soon.
I'm glad you're back from the other side of the world. It was like every time I would like send you a message, I'd be like, oh, he's probably asleep. And then like I would wake up in the morning and I'd have a message from you. So it's good to be able to communicate again.
That's definitely the way. I would get lots of messages in the morning and the evening. Not much else when you're on the other side of the world. They want to talk about the quantum. Daniel asks us, what about the quantum computing threat? So I want to say I haven't read any articles about this recently, so maybe there's a new development in quantum computing that I'm not aware of. But Blake, what's the basic idea? We have an encryption scheme here. Right now, it takes 1,000 computers 1,000 years to break our encryption, right? So it's really difficult. If we had a faster computer, quantum, DNA, or organic, I'm not sure which category of computer we're in, but if we had a faster computer, we could break Bitcoin and we could mine it really fast, or we could actually just break into everyone's wallet. It would be a disaster, right?
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's entanglement-based computing, then there's quantum computing in terms of like, are we going to make a stable gate that is able to process quantum information and stuff like that? And in terms of having a stable quantum gate,
pretend I'm
specialized.
Stupid. Quantum means time. And what are we getting, a time gate? Are we building portals? What's going on here?
Like it's referring to like the size and the physics that's going on. So like there's regular physics, and then there's particle physics and stuff like that. So quantum computing is going to try to use fundamental superpositions and stuff like that to be able to compute things. To make a stable quantum system, you have to have superconductors and super low temperature. It makes it really, 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 really hard for them to be stable. It makes it even harder for them to be stable, and then also working and doing things which are going to create heat and energy. So making a stable quantum application specific integrated circuit that's going to aim specifically at a certain point of Bitcoin and break it. I mean, I personally believe that we're way off from that happening. Other people might be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
And if it broke Bitcoin's encryption, it would break all the banks too, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically you could aim it at anything that uses current encryption thoughts, standards, practices, and it would be able to brute it much more quickly than other things. But I haven't seen a whole lot of evidence of those types of computers being operative and being strong in doing that. So
also I'm reading that I was wrong. Quantum doesn't mean time. What does it mean? Like very small?
Like a quanta, like space quanta. Like if you were to quantize space, like quantized space theory.
Yeah. Well, they say Bitcoin's going to break and tank because of the quantum computer. Not sure about that. The AI is interesting. Okay, so quantum means discrete quantity. Okay.
It would be used to reinforce the chain at the same time as it would attack the chain. So I don't think that the quantum computers are going to hurt the chain. The risk would be if a quantum computer is pointed at a specific wallet and then tries to get money out of it. At that point, if it was a huge issue, then what we'd have to do is recalculate how much effort and time it takes for cracking whatever, and then you would have to break up the amount of Bitcoin that you have in separate wallets so it was below that threshold to make it worth it to do so.
All right. And they also want us to talk about AI. Isn't it interesting how AI has gone from thinking computers to predictive computers? AI now will look at your schedule and say, hey, every day at 3 o'clock, you walk the dog. Maybe I'll remind you to walk the dog tomorrow. And that is AI. Are we going to get thinking computers, or are we going to just have predictive computers?
I don't think that that's AI. I think that AI that's fully functional, has to meet certain minimum requirements, and a lot of things I think are called AI that aren't even close. So true artificial intelligence is really, really tough because we don't really even understand biological intelligence, why memories can store cells, why people need sleep. Are we some type of an antenna that's communicating with the grand unified field, and then do we have to recreate that inside of our artificial intelligence? There's a lot of questions that we don't understand at a very deep level. So I'm not as excited about AI as a lot of people. Like a lot of people at MIT that were studying AI for a long time ended up getting bored and moving over to additive manufacturing and 3D printing. So.
And now that we're finally talking about AI and quantum computers, spaceships, and stuff of the future, we're joined by Gabriel Devine. How's it going there, Gabriel?
It's going great. Happy 9800 show.
We just can't seem to get over that 10,000. It's almost like we announced the show and we put a jinx on the whole Bitcoin.
Exactly. I think it's a jinx, and I wasn't going to join the show, but when you said quantum means time, I had to jump in. And Blake's sort of, skipping over the definition there was inadequate. So I wanted to just jump in and say that physics, it's a generally accepted principle, even amongst the very cutting edge of physics, like Nassim Haramein, who recognize that consciousness is actually the basis of all matter and energy, and things build up from there. Even those guys that, like your monitor and like looking into a HTC Vive or an Oculus Rift, reality itself is quantized. In other words, there is a smallest of every measurement that you can think of, and they all
space is not infinitely divisible.
Space is not infinitely divisible. There's no such thing as a curve that just is perfect, a perfect circle. This was a principle, as far as I'm aware, basically attributed to Max Planck, the famous around the early 20th century, so sometime 100 or 90 years ago. Planck recognized that there was a smallest length, that nothing could ever be smaller than the Planck length. Now, the Planck length is really small. It's way smaller than an electron. It's way smaller than a photon, which is actually, look at it, it looks kind of like I believe it's called the Scottish cross. It's the cross that has the sort of, and it's an even four-sided cross. In any case, so what quantum physics is the physics of tiny chunks of stuff. So Newtonian physics is kind of this gloss over of a generalized view of reality, where things at a larger macro scale, like human bodies, planets, even like bacteria and things, are going to basically follow this sort of old school 18th century ideas. But when you get down to a certain size, which is way bigger than the Planck length, but still small stuff like photons and electrons, stuff really begins to vary differently. And what traditional physics has a really hard time with is reconciling these two things. This is what, what's his face, King Stephen Hawking talks about, a conjectural grand unified field theory, and then in the sort of woo-woo community, they consider that to have probably been figured out in the late 20s and just been kept under wraps and used for secret physics, like gravity-free energy and things like that. So that's what quantum physics is.
I think you're right. When I talk to younger kids and stuff like that, I call it particle physics. I say quantum physics. You could pretty much call it particle physics if that helps the kids to understand. And then Thad Roberts has a TED talk about 11-dimensional quantized space theory, and it's a fantastic TED talk. So if you want to learn more about quanta, that's good. It's not necessarily what quantum mechanics are about, but there is such a thing now theorized as individual quanta, which is the most that you could possibly divide up blank space.
Right. So Planck, something, in other words, something as small as a Planck space, just like you can have a Planck length. A Planck volume is, of course, three-dimensional of that length. You can then, by extension, you also have time. Nothing can happen in smaller than 1/30th of a 30 trillionth of a second, or what it is. And there's every measurement in the universe has a smallest version, and so computing is utilizing crazy properties of quantum physics in order to do calculations in what we might call non-Euclidean or non-classical physical way. So that way you can, things where in normal digital binary computing on the macro scale might take millions of years, you could do in seconds with quantum computers.
Yeah, like a quantum computer is like binary plus, so you can do contemporaneous calculation.
Right. Essentially, the way that traditional physics thinks about it is, or not traditional, but quantum physics is that you're going out into these dimensions. Community sees things.
Hold on, I have lots of questions. We have to slow everything down. Blake said it would be like binary plus. Is this similar to, there's that new camera where you can take a picture and then you can refocus the picture. So you can have any
No,
kind of,
it's nothing like that at all. Well, as an analogy, you mean?
yeah, as an analogy, is it like all possibilities? Like when I run the code,
Kinda.
I get all the options instead of just one option.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you can explore all those options in an extremely fast way because you're leveraging the uncertainty of the universe, so to speak. So, as Bitcoin and quantum computing, I don't necessarily agree with Blake, particularly much of a risk. So if we are, if
I didn't say that it wasn't a risk. I said what we would do about it.
Right. Yeah. So first of all, there's always ways to defend.
How quickly this happens. Things.
So there's always ways to defend against anything. But as far as quantum computing goes, information exists in quantum computing, and the level of the technology is accurate. Absolutely nothing at all to worry about. I mean, one of the two main cryptographic algorithms used in Bitcoin.
Can you say that again? You had a big burp. You said that if the current if we have a realistic understanding of the current state of quantum computing, then there's nothing to worry about. Is that what you said?
It is. Let me try to fix my connection here. Hold on.
No worries. I just want to make sure that we're getting everything that you're saying.
And we are still watching the price of Bitcoin fell a bit to 9,800, now at 9,829. Gabriel, you might want to try turning your camera off. Not sure.
Is that better actually now?
It sounds good now. Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Okay. If we know about the level of quantum computing in technology, if somebody's keeping some quantum computers under Area 51 secret and they actually have them and could deploy them at any time, then there definitely are risks. One of the two main cryptographic algorithms in Bitcoin is quantum proof already, but the other is not. I don't quite remember which one is which. I think it's SHA-256, which is not quantum proof. So, but there are algorithms that we know mathematically aren't necessarily any easier to solve with a quantum computer than with a classical computer. And if we start to get wind of quantum computers existing in some sort of secret capacity, in my opinion, hard forking that quantum weak cryptographic algorithm into one that's much stronger, which do exist, will be one of the least controversial hard forks ever. I think that and increased divisibility would be some hard forks that the legacy chain would have very little mining power behind them. I think that would be very uncontroversial.
I agree. We can have a hard fork if we all agree. And if the old system is hackable and it's no good, that would be an easy hard fork. I also like the second idea. Not enough people have talked about this, but right now we only go down 8 digits, right? Right, Gabriel? You're saying we could go maybe down 16 digit, have a new micro Satoshi or something like.
Exactly.
Really,
I mean, yeah, you could hard fork and add 8 more, right? Or 16 more, or 1,000 more. I wonder about a more like with block size, where it's still hacky. I mean, in computer science terms, I'm sure Blake's very familiar with this term. There's a term called magic numbers. Have you ever heard of that, Thomas?
The magic number is going to win me the lotto. That's the one I need to pick.
This is a wonderful
also,
term.
There's imaginary numbers. I've heard of imaginary.
Right. No, yeah, no, that's just a straight mathematics. But in programming, it's a more informal term, kind of like cruft, which is a word for code that's sticking around, that's not doing anything anymore, that you should probably clean out, but you don't know for certain. So like just extra gunking up your code is called cruft. This is another slang term. Magic numbers is basically you don't want to have just a digit or a value, a numeric value just sitting in your code somewhere. You want to at least name it and say, this is my magic algorithm ratio that I figured out is optimum, right? Optimum, variable name optimum ratio equals 1.067. You don't want to just have 1.067 floating in your code. That's known as a magic number, and it's considered to be very poor coding practice. So in my opinion, the 1 megabyte not currently block weight, it's not block size anymore, but the 1 megabyte or 4 megabyte, I believe it is now, block weight is a magic number. This is this is still a hack as a temporary spam protection, and I do think that we're going to figure out one of these freaking geniuses that makes these breakthroughs, mind-boggling breakthroughs like segregated witness. Just take the move where the signatures are, and then you totally, bypass the biggest bug in Bitcoin and gain all this great stuff.
Well, definitely, and that's what makes me feel so safe when people say that there's a criticism with Bitcoin here or there that might come eventually. Because like even when Roger Ver was just saying that the other day, it's like, yeah, dude, but we have the scientists that invented this entire field of technology working on our chain. If there's some type of big issue, they're going to come up with a solution, and we're going to fork over to whatever preserves value. So when he's like, we've got solutions and Bitcoin can't implement them because they're too, risk averse. And it's like, your development complexity went off the charts from what you did, and you don't have the people that invented this area of science to help you with your chain. So like what you're saying, is correct. But even if changes need to be made, we have the team that is able to get those through, that invented all this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Bitcoin, of Bcash, right? Their quote unquote solution was just another magic number. That was definitely not a solution, and it wasn't even a good temporary solution. So, swapping one magic number for another is not a long-term solution. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how we deal with block size. And gaming some algorithm to change the block size up and down for spam protection is probably not going to work. It's going to take some classic out-of-the-box thinking, right, where it's a total paradigm shift, where everybody is right now thinking about this block weight thing backwards. And actually what we need to do is probably flip the concept on its head and think of the chain in an inside-out way, where it's probably going to be like that, because it takes a paradigm shift to break through these types of challenges. Luckily, we have a good solution in place to keep us going until then. And, for all we know, it'll be once again another opt-in soft fork. That might not even need a hard fork.
Very exciting stuff, thinking about the future of Bitcoin. I like what Gabriel said about the magic numbers and about Bcash just changing a 1 to a 2. Yeah, that's not a very elegant solution. I've always thought it was like the road problem here in California. We just keep adding more roads, and then more people come here, and then they fill up the roads. And then, we eventually can't add more roads because they built houses next to the freeway. And then we're boxed in. We need flying cars or something. I don't know.
Are we joined by the Hawkman? Is it the Hawkman?
It is.
Hey, man.
Hey, Gabriel. Nice to meet you. Blake, in person.
Likewise.
It's a pleasure, man.
So
we're just watching the price of Bitcoin. It's supposed to go over 10,000, but it's being frustratingly slow.
Well, I came in here to boost those two exchanges, but to me, this is a 10,800 party, because that's where the majority of volume is trading in Korea, and that's what the price is right now. All three exchanges.
All right, and that's even just the normal price, not the including Bcash, including B Diamond, including B Gold.
No, it's BitThumb and CoinOne. There's three exchanges. 12% of global volume is trading at 10,800 right now, and this is also going to be the Litecoin $100 party, and I assume it's going to go over right when Bitcoin goes over 10,000.
All right, Litecoin 100 in the house. Excellent stuff.
Although I loved his tweet about the debate. He was like, wow, you really got that upset and started attacking the concept of pornography itself. And then right afterwards, he's like, let's have a debate, you and me. And I was like, oh, man, Charles Lee is just so funny.
By the way, can you go back, Thomas, to the screen there with the price?
Go ahead.
The Bitcoin. I mean, are we going to have Litecoin 41 and BTC 2,400 forever, whatever those prices are?
They did eventually take down the Mt. Gox This exchange used to default to Mt. Gox, and it was frozen at 314 for a long time. Right. It was just a beautiful thing when these exchanges go down. It just becomes a flat line of history.
And BTCE is always 2546.
It's a beautiful time. Remember the lost coins. Remember the memories.
It's like the chalk outline of a body.
So Andy, let's get your opinion while you have you here on the trading. Is Bitcoin going to correct like a lot of people are going to say? Or are we going to see 12,000 or higher here?
Well, first, I'm just going to, I think to try to sound smart, this might have been the toughest time to come in. You guys are talking about some serious stuff here, and I'm feeling pretty dumb. But I'm
come on, Andy. Let's hear some quantum physics chops.
I had never even heard of quantum physics until this. I'm more excited about the Big Bang Theory on Thursday when they talked about Bitcoin at $5,000. They probably taped it a month ago. But as far as trading, I have no opinion. You know, Tone can give his opinions. He knows it more than me. It's refreshing that trading technical analysis tends to work in this after all these years of watching rigged markets like gold and stocks. But this is a new asset class. That's the whole point of what's going on here. It's not even a matter whether you think, well, this is the future of money or wealth storage. This is, and Max Kaiser put it perfectly, it's the first brand new mega asset class in centuries. There's stocks, there's bonds, there's precious metals, real estate. These things have been around a long time. So whether you believe that the function of Bitcoin is to buy coffee or to preserve value for generations, or to trade or whatever it is, the fact is that there's a long, long way to go before it just becomes the correct size. And that wall of institutional money is coming. It's just starting to get here. It's just being noticed by the institutions. And when the futures come on, and wait till you see, wait till you see what happens in January when those 10,000 crypto hedge funds come on, and it'll be a whole new world. So I think that I think we're going to have a mother of all Santa Claus rallies. And who knows what'll happen in January, but I think we'll be through 10,000 quickly.
Well, I think that you're right about it. It's a new asset class, but I think that you could even very, very easily defend it one more giant leap forward and say it's a completely new form of scarcity. You have government decree-based fiat scarcity, where the government, decrees this is our monetary and fiscal policy. You're going to pay taxes. It has a value because we say that it does. Then you have physical-backed value. You have something that's tied to gold or something that's got a physical, limit in the world. And then you have math-based scarcity, which is this completely new type of scarcity. So you're right. You touch on how valuable it is when it's a new asset class. But if you really, really crunch in your mind, you can actually conclude that it's actually even more macro than that. It's a whole new type of scarcity, which I think is super exciting. It's almost like in physics, E = mc squared was a landmark discovery that everybody thought, okay, now we can continue to study physics with this great set of understanding, like this big milestone. The way that we can solve a lot of the issues with fault tolerance in 2008 fundamentally changed computer science. And I think that that's a good way to look at this new type of technology. It's one of the fundamental, it's a fundamental discovery in computer science that decimates the limits upon what we can do in terms of making it so that we have viable solutions to fault tolerance. So I think that the more you study and the more you look at Bitcoin, the more you see what Andy is talking about. And then you see another layer above it, why it's really, really interesting. And then the more that you continue to look at it, the more you see how different it is at every single fractal scale of reality. Every single different viewpoint that you can look at, the different resolution is self-similar with all the other points that add this totally unique value. So I think that's really, really exciting that anything is that valuable enough that when you look at it, you really see that.
Wait a second. You're saying that Bitcoin, I agree with you about this as a new logical class of scarcity that's never existed before. Before 2009, anything digital could be copied endlessly. You could make 5 billion, trillion, quadrillion copies of your email or your little text file, your database or anything. Suddenly, now we have this totally different thing, digital scarcity. It never existed before. But you just said that all the various conceptual levels of Bitcoin are fractals of one another. So you're saying that the mathematical computer science scarcity breakthrough is a fractal or different, is a self-similar form to the cultural impact of a digital sound money?
Yes, absolutely. And I didn't know if I would be able to tease it out this far, but the sociological value impact add of what people are going to think is valuable, plus the computer science programming wherewithal to make that incentive alignment perfectly fused. I mean, that's absolutely fucking incredible. It's literally mind-blowing if you look at the type of prophetic intelligence that would have been required to make a system that is performing this well. I mean, it's insane. I cannot wrap my head around how exciting it is.
Well, how about this? I'll try to, you know, put it in my world, in the finance world, the way I see it, as how special and crazy the situation is. This whole thing, Bitcoin, was created by central banks. The whole reason that that Satoshi and all the people who were developing for all these years was all the money printing. That was the root cause. And what Wall Street and finance loves is liquidity. And what they love even more is liquidity plus scarcity. And so the Fed and the central banks, ECB, they have no idea. We're just getting started with the Frankenstein monster that they created, because Wall Street is going, and I say Wall Street, I mean all of the world's Wall Streets, and I mean all of the world's institutions and all of the world's 2,000 billionaires and tens of thousands of multi-millionaires are going to be staring at this cap limit and realizing how much money is printed out there, and there's a lot more coming. And as a game, almost for fun, they're going to want to see how far they can take this thing up. And you can already see the liquidity. I mean, I talk about this at Crypto Gold Central. You could see the liquidity drying up. The fact that we're trading at almost 11,000 in some parts of the world, 10,500. The spreads are widening. The OTC brokers that I've been talking to, you know, Francis Pouliot, he was on the Bitcoin News on Sunday talking about how the liquidity for brokers is drying up. And I could see it already with who I'm dealing with. There's just an incredible scarcity already, and Wall Street hasn't even joined the game. I truly believe, I wrote an article maybe 2 months ago that says that we could get to $1 million a coin without hyperinflation, which is something gold couldn't do in its wildest dreams during a time where there was no Bitcoin.
All right, and as Andy's talking, the price seems to be going back up. We're at 9.
Of course, because I'm talking.
That's it. Gabriel Divine is back. What do you think, Gabriel? Are we going up more?
Sure looks like it. Look at that Elliott wave. I don't know what an Elliott wave is, but I know it's something to do with technical analysis.
Yeah, it's BS technical analysis. In fact, I'll give Tone credit here because honestly, I've been saying, you know, I have lots to say about Tone. He is the most controversial person in the whole space, and he has been a truth warrior like no one, and he's got that New York edge like me. But I'll say, I've said he's probably made more money for people than any person I've ever come across in my 30-year career, and not just for the technical calls, but the, you know, being able to make people feel comfortable during the down times. You know, like when we had the whole Jamie Dimon and China thing, and yeah, I mean, he called the bottom to like the, you know, even the tops that he's called. It's given a lot of comfort to a lot of people, hodlers, forget traders. So I want to give him credit there. And you know, technically, like I said, it works to an extent, but I have a feeling that there's going to be a level of FOMO that's going to throw that out the window at some point. Maybe it's next year. We'll see.
It certainly is an incredible rise for Bitcoin. We'd like to thank Kahuli in the chat for his donation. And thanks to everybody for watching, giving us a thumbs up and a share. We have 1,157 live viewers. Very exciting chat going on. And we're watching the price of Bitcoin, which is frustratingly not breaking 10,000. Looks like there's about a 17 Bitcoin sell wall. Seeing a few others above that, at least on Bitfinex right now.
I think that the party was a 10,000 party when it was averaged across exchanges over 10,000. That for me is the marker of it being over. Like some people are like, it's, you know, this, and then they link to a single exchange. And I was like, we've been in this long enough. Let's link.
I like it when we break things and totally leave them behind. Like I don't even remember 8,000. I've been trying to, you know, put out $100 every once in a while, trying to take money out of this. I didn't even get a chance at 8,000. It was like 2 days. Now we're in the 9,000s. I don't even remember 9,000. I want 12,000. I want 11,000. These crazy thousands.
Well, on that note, when you say 12,000, I think by now everyone's well aware who Mike Novogratz is. I'm not sure exactly how much he made on Ethereum, but it sounds like probably close to $500 million. And he now is starting up a crypto hedge fund that he hasn't even started yet. And look what's going on. He's put a little of his own money in, but this guy is going to be the Warren Buffett of our time. I've been writing that for some time, following this guy. He is someone that people need to watch because he is going to be one of the wealthiest people in the entire world. And he says $12,000 by the end of this year, as in next month, and $40,000 by the end of the following year. $40,000 would get you to a $650 billion market cap, which sounds like a lot, except in the world of money printing, it's really not that much. And people say, well, what's your target, Andy? What's your price target? And I don't have a price target right now. The only target I have is that I think it should be a higher market cap than Apple at some time in the next year or two, because as great as Apple is, A, it's mature, and B, I think the impact on the world Bitcoin is going to have is far greater than Apple. So
Bitcoin
yes.
is two things that we desperately need. It's an arc
Yes.
in the flood of debt, and it's a ruler in terms of when everything has become rubber bullshit. Every ruler has become rubber bullshit, and Bitcoin is galvanized against that. So when you can take that ruler that's good at measuring the actual value of different things, people are going to want to take and apply that ruler to everything, because it is the most accurate ruler that we have to measure value. And when people talk about objective utility, I mean, for fuck's sake, that is a hyper massive source of objective utility. And then you look at let's look at the dollar as a ruler, and you go to US Debt Clock, usdebtclock.org, and you can see it going down. It's like, yeah, there's so much of it that even though it's going down fast, that it makes, a decent ruler, but you don't want something that's always shifting, shorter and shorter and shorter. You want a ruler that can measure what's going on, and then you want to be able to know that is not going to be, overpromised and underdelivered. It's probably going to deflate even more by the time you get to where you're going. That's just so huge.
And on the other side of Andy's statement, Apple has been running on the genius of its founder, who died 7 years ago, leaving the company in the hands of an operations manager with no vision. They haven't come out with a single breakthrough product since Jobs' death. He's just basically been guiding the ship and preventing it from sinking. They've been doing great on paper, but they haven't actually made any breakthroughs, and they've only had basically failed new product line launches. And I don't see Apple holding the mantle for very many more years, because they just don't have the innovation. They don't have that vision anymore, unless they can find a new visionary. Tim Cook is a nobody as far as
I do
technology
think
innovation.
There's room for Apple as a mid-level company. Maybe it's not the exciting Apple as old, but if they produce commodity laptops of high quality, commodity phones of high quality, there's a lot of money there. There's a lot of consumers there. But yeah, the innovation has been lacking.
Well, it's certainly no Bitcoin.
Well, let me expand on that, because I'm not talking about how Apple is going to do. I'm not saying that I expect them to cross. Well, Apple's going to fall like by half and they'll catch it. I'm talking about that where it is right now, the $850 billion market cap. That's my target. We're going to cross it there. But I actually have two real targets. They're not numbers, but we're talking about that's going to be the first cross, when people realize that this is a major technology that's more valuable than any technology that's out there in the consumer world. The bigger one, of course, is going to be the gold cross. Now, the value of all the gold in the world is a very difficult thing to figure out. But roughly speaking,
I do want to make sure we get our question here from the chat. The guy says, divide all the known above ground gold into 21 million to get a 1-to-1 comparison. And he believes that one Bitcoin should be worth about 10 tons of gold. And that's for a 416 billion per Bitcoin, something like that.
Yeah, okay. It may not be that high, but but everyone's seen the chart that's out there of quote all of the gold that's ever been mined, and at market prices, it's $8 trillion. That that jives with lots of stuff I've seen over the years in my gold world. It makes a lot of sense based on how much mining capacity there actually has been over time. The thing is that, of course, most of that is, if a lot of the Bitcoin is sitting in cold storage, well, a lot of the gold is too. It's sitting in jewelry that's not going to be sold. It's in temples. There's lost stashes, all kinds of stuff. But let's just say that all the gold in the world is worth $7 trillion. And all the Bitcoin in the world, less all the stuff that's been lost. And by the way, the 4 million that won't be mined for another 100 years. We're talking about $100 billion or so of actual available for sale Bitcoin. So I think in time it's going to be worth more than the gold. Gold is great. It's not going away, but it's going to be used less and less as the older generations that value it pass on their wealth to younger generations that are going to value a digital world. That's what we're moving into. So I'm not saying I think that I know where they're going to cross, but I think that they're going to cross a lot closer to the 7 trillion than to the lower half of that range. And I'm not sure how long that'll take.
I'm also seeing it's 4.6 billion, not 416 billion, but still $4.6 billion a coin. Sounds pretty good to me.
That's a good number.
No, it's not. I mean, we need to get Roger's roadmap in here so that we can get some real growth.
Have we talked about his John's interview with Roger yet? I'm sure
we've touched on it
a little bit. Everybody's kind of embarrassed for Roger. He went over the line there, and he went over the line for this naming issue, not even for any of the technical issues. But what were your thoughts on the interview, Andy?
Well, if you've read my Twitter, let alone if you're a member and have read the article, I say Roger Ver, like jackass, con man, or both. I mean, I have no reservations. I'm not one of these people who says, well, here's the good side of him. Yes. And I know that in the old days, he did good things, but there are plenty of people in the world who did good things. Alan Greenspan did good things and then became the Federal Reserve Chairman. So I don't forgive what he did in the past. What he's done in the last year or two, for whatever reasons, I don't know if it's his personal gain, if he actually believes what he's talking about. He's done a lot of damage to a lot of people. And you look at who's benefited from it, him, Jian Wu, these powerful people who are no longer going to be powerful in the Bitcoin community. So I watched that interview, and just like any time he gets interviewed, it was cringeworthy. Good for John for decimating him quietly while he's talking about John being contentious. John was talking quietly. He was the one like it. And I have nothing but disdain for Bitcoin Cash or Bcash, whatever you want to call it. Not because I'm against them trying to compete, but for the way they've done it. That's just not the way of the Bitcoin community. I'm glad that we're done with Roger Ver, because the more he talks, the more he just destroys his legacy.
Well, there were a lot of people too. The moment that they saw that John was going to interview him, everybody was like, "Oh, if Roger had any PR people that he would listen to, they would have been like, do not debate that guy."
Yeah, did they see what John did to Vinnie Lingham?
It's just like John is he's like a Tucker Carlson type of figure in terms of an interview. He's not going to softball. Like, he would rather die than softball an interview. So the second that was like set up, I was just like, oh boy, this is going to be a good one.
I wasn't going to watch it until I saw who the interviewer was, and then I said I got to see it.
Well, a lot of people have been saying you shouldn't interview Roger and that he's a propaganda master and that he'll overpower you and he'll get his opinion out there. That's not what I saw on display with his most recent interview and a lot of his other interviews. He got mad at a foreign reporter. I think she was calling it Bcash as well. And he's got to understand a lot of people don't have a lot of time. We're not going to say Bitcoin Cash every time. Look how long that is. It's ridiculous. Bitcoin Cash, Bcash. It's not the N word. I don't think they're gaining any points with anyone reacting this way. And obviously the internet has memed up him saying Bcash more than enough in the last few days. Will they learn their lesson, or are they going to stick with this Bcash slur argument?
Well, that's cash.
Or isn't it Zcash, not Zero Cash? Like this is like, you know what I mean? Like all you have to do is look around for a second, be like, oh, this is a trend of naming. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole point is with propaganda, you got to have a basis for people to believe. Everyone wants to. They say, well, everyone just believes Roger because he was the Bitcoin Jesus and he's so good at speaking. And first of all, as you guys are saying, I don't think he's that good at speaking. I think he's very plastic and very disingenuous in the way he speaks. And then, of course, you look at what the actions he's taken regarding Bcash and Bitcoin Unlimited and who his partners have been. And it's so obvious that the tactics that he's used, I mean, it's you can't hide what you've done. But the thing that hurts him the most is the fact that Bcash or Bitcoin Cash, whatever, is just a clone altcoin that doesn't do anything. And you know, he's trying to convince the big money. I mean, he may have a few of these cult-like people that are following him, but the big money just laughs at Bcash. They will buy it, the big money, because they're looking for liquid instruments as the wall of institutional money comes in. But it's not going to gain. It's never going to gain. I think it's already peaked against Bitcoin, and it's not going to really do much, I think, in the real world as compared to probably some of the other altcoins that are around more honestly, like Litecoin. I think there are some coins that are going to really surprise going forward at what they can do. And I have a feeling that the centralized China coin is not going to be one of them.
Well, it's also doing exactly what I predicted that it would do when we had the chain split live thing where we watched the birth of the chain split. I said, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go down for a while, and then right before Coinbase releases these customer fees, that's going to be a huge influx of supply for people to sell. So look for an extremely desperate pump before that happens, and that's almost exactly to the T what has happened. And a free true market shouldn't be that predictable. Like there's a problem there. So that's my opinion a little bit about how this Bitcoin Cash stuff has played out. It's nothing that is mysterious if you really look into the motivations and the technology and the science and the value add. That's not tenable.
The other thing that Roger did that really hurt himself, and again, he's showing that he just doesn't understand Wall Street. If you are known as pretty much the biggest holder, and you are constantly telling everybody that you are selling your position, then people who are in Wall Street who are thinking there was this big supply overhead are realizing, oh, this guy's telling me the supply overhead is gone, and they are going to buy, like they're going to be like vultures, like you know, after the sharks after the chum. You don't tell people that you're doing that, and now everyone's kind of laughing at him, going, wait, you had all of that Bitcoin. You probably would have been, aside from Satoshi, the wealthiest man in the history of the universe. And you did what with it? You bought Bcash with it? You got to be kidding. So it's just so funny. Like if you're a professional investor or marketer, you look at what he's done and you go, my God. And you not only could you have been the wealthiest person in the world, you were also the Bitcoin Jesus. You could have been the most famous, loved, and wealthy person in the world. And in fact, and what you turned it into is this guy who gives the finger. It says Bcash. It said, I was a self-made millionaire before Bitcoin. Unbelievable what he could have been and what he turned himself into.
Well, also, what do markets do? Markets slaughter pigs. Markets are so good at slaughtering pigs, it might as well just be a giant slaughterhouse where the people that don't know what the fuck is going on just go right into the meat grinder. And like that, Roger has become a pig. He is too greedy. Like that's what pig refers to in an investment market. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. You don't want to become a pig. You definitely don't want to do that. And when you become one and when you act like one, the market will slaughter the shit out of you in very, very, very efficient short order.
Yeah, it's that.
I want to go back into what Andy said about the great Roger Ver tragedy. And I really do think there is like Shakespearean elements there. The guy had or might have had $1 billion. He could have done anything with this. He could have set up a foundation. He could have hired a lot of smart people around him to manage his PR. He has Bitcoin.com. He could have been a real leader in this space. And even with the Bcash, you could have just held both sides of the fork and had a ton of that anyway. Monetarily, he's fine. It is incredibly tragic what he's done with the positive attitude, with the love that people gave him for Bitcoin Jesus, for being early, for being an early investor in all these companies. He knows all the CEOs. He's friends with all of them. They all respect him for being early, and what he's done with that. This cursing it's almost in a more professional space. You'd expect him to maybe get some media management, get some therapy, come back. But because this is the Bitcoin space and he's completely self-made, you have to figure he keeps doing whatever he wants to do. There's no one to, much like perhaps President Trump, there's no one to tell him no. There's no one to tell him, like, maybe you should rein it in on this section.
Right. And of course, Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, is 1,000 times more accomplished in his life than Roger Ver is. So he has a little more cushion. So even when he says things, he can still stay the president. And you know what, the way I look at it is what he did. You say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. He realized this is basically, there's no insider trading rules. And I know all the people. I can make friends with Jihan Wu, who's the president of the biggest miner. Together, we could do whatever we want. We can create forks. We can create FUD. We can inside trade. And I think he's probably made unbelievable amounts of money using that power for evil. And like you said, I mean, it's amazing. He didn't have to do anything. He could have been happy and relaxed and made a lot more money and been a lot more beloved. And I mean, like you said, he literally could have done anything. Like you see, like, Bill Gates, he's got his Gates Foundation. He could have done what Bill Gates is doing 10 times over. Whatever he wanted to correct in the world, he could have done. It's just such a shame. And he's still going to be wealthy, and he's still going to be powerful. But it really, just to watch that unfold, and I don't feel bad, because I feel like he's done a lot. I've watched the Gold Cartel do a lot to try to hurt me and others for years, and that's how I feel with him. He's tried to hurt me, and I'd say eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. So, I have no mercy.
I also think that with Roger, and we're going to I'll go to you in just a sec, Gabe. We're going to psychoanalyze him a little bit here, but there's a bit to Roger where, to be this great man, there's no formula. There's no like written down thing that if you become Carnegie, you're supposed to be a Carnegie, not a Rockefeller. There's no path for people to go down. And for me, I never wanted to be that rich. I thought I'd be a lazy rich person like the lawyers, or I'd be in great debt. But there is this other rich, this dream of like a de Medici, a person who creates an empire and who spreads science and technology and who improves things. Similar to the comparison of Bill Gates, like you mentioned, versus Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs just kind of held his money. Apple held their money. Gates, surprisingly to a lot of people, went out and did the bed nets and did the highways for Africa and did all this incredible structure with the Gates Foundation. It's interesting to see Roger go this way. And it's partially it's about the negativity that Roger always sees an enemy. He always sees people as against him. He doesn't see people as willing to join him. I think a lot of people wanted to join Roger. We wanted to be part of a positive Bitcoin revolution. We might have used a little funding here or there for travel or for bills and things like that. And he could have provided that, and maybe he still can. Maybe there's a renovation. Maybe there's a new Roger Ver out there, or maybe Trace, or maybe somebody else, or Satoshi steps up and acts in this role of the great patron. But I still think it's possible. Gabriel, disagree with me on the great patron? Go ahead.
Great patron. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, that tradition has already started. As you pointed out, Ver invested in early companies. I think Trace Mayer is a great example of that type of figure, and I have a feeling Trace has a huge amount of money right now. I'm assuming he's got 5 figures in XBT position. So, he's just, he's also been speculating a little bit on the side with altcoins and doing really, really well with that too, just for fun. I know that I'm assuming he was a millionaire in 2010 and 11 when he found out about Bitcoin. He says himself that he, timed the .com bubble really well. Then he bought gold and got out when he got into Bitcoin in early 2011. So I think he's done very, very well. I wouldn't be surprised if he's sitting on $500 million. As far as Roger Ver, on the other hand, or Ver, My opinion has always been colored by when I got into Bitcoin, which was 2013, the spring bubble, and I got really interested in it, and did my big study time when I was in between contracts, and had a lot of time for 2 weeks and just completely dove all the way in. At that time, I was scouring YouTube for anything I could find about Bitcoin. That's how I found Thomas, which was about 2 weeks later. But during those 2 weeks, all I could find was like a couple of interviews with Eric Voorhees, several segments on Max Kaiser with various people like Amir Taki. And there was this comedian who started out at the same time as Thomas with who did Mad Bitcoins. He had a great show for like six episodes, and Roger Ver. And I was just stoked to find anybody talking about Bitcoin back then. There was very little information. You had about one article in the entire internet. You had Bitcoin Talk, you had Reddit, but there wasn't much traffic. There wasn't much news. It was like it's very difficult to find news about Bitcoin and what's going on with it. And at first, I was just like, "Oh, cool, another person who's talking about Bitcoin." But the more interviews I saw with him, the less respect I had for him. And about a month or two later, I just was like, this guy has never says anything interesting or original about Bitcoin at all. And I was just amazed that he was able to see this thing coming. I think maybe he's just a generalist and had some money to play with at that time. Good, got a little bit lucky with a friend or whatever, and just really hit that thing early and was just kind of up on the tech.
Well, and remember how well Bitcoin fits into libertarian values. I remember when I was, I'm still anti-bank, and when I took my savings and I took it from the savings account, put it in the Bitcoin, I just felt good about it. I mean, obviously we made money, we lost money, it went up and down, and there's been dramatic things, but I just felt good not being in a bank, and I'm sure Roger probably felt the same way. But boy, did he invest and early too.
Right. Yeah. And he did really well, but his interviews were so bad. So just on a personal level, I was just like, God, this guy's kind of an idiot. How the hell did he get into this? Because he doesn't say anything smart ever. I'm so weirded out. So, but then a couple of years ago, I was like, wow, this guy's like now basically openly attacking consensus. And the fear, I sense a lot of fear in Ver and
Roger Fear.
Exactly. And I sense a similar fear in Fake Satoshi, in Gavin Bell / Andreessen, in Garzik now, and that is where the conspiracy theory comes in. I think these guys are being bribed and or coerced. And in the case of Roger, it might be more of a bribe, like, you can keep your money and we won't kill you if you attack it in such and such a way. This is my conspiracy theory. I have absolutely no evidence for it other than gut feeling and just adding things together.
Or they've simply picked the wrong side and they thought it was the right side, and now they are backtracking because they know they're on the wrong side and they're trying to figure out how to get out of it. And there's really no way of getting out of it. You talk about like what he was, what he or anyone was to you early on compared to what they are now. I have the same experience with precious metals. I got in 2002. That's a long time ago. And it wasn't until, I still keep a little gold, but it wasn't until only a few months ago that I got out. So I have a whole bunch of people that taught me and were my mentors way back in the early 2000s. And I look at them now, they're all still around pretty much. And there's very few of them that I have much respect for. There are a few that have maintained the test of time, their dignity and their intelligence. But Mike a lot of times, I didn't know him way back when, but he's one of the smarter people in the sector. But he's not one of the guys I knew way back when. And of those, a lot of them have kind of disgraced themselves or they've not distinguished themselves. So look, things change in time. And someone who was a mentor in Bitcoin 2012 or 13 is not necessarily the ones now. I've seen his interviews from back then. They're inspirational, whether he was a good speaker or not. But there's far more people that that I follow right now that are far more important to me. And 5 years from now, they may be a whole new group of people. So you have to be adaptive. And that's the whole point, especially with people in the precious metals world who just don't want to adapt to reality. And, you know, I always say the most important commodity you can invest in is finding who these, you know, I call them the good, smart people, meaning they actually know what they're talking about and they have your best interests at heart. And they are hard to find. And, you know, when I got into this space, World Crypto Network was one of the places I found, you know, pretty much 90% of it. That was before I even got on Twitter. And now there's tons of them out on Twitter. Adam Meister, I love his show. I've been listening to it daily for years. And, you know, I'm going to keep, you know, every single day looking for those people to follow because they're going to keep changing over time. And hopefully 10 or 15 years from now, you guys will still be on my list too. And hopefully I'll be on your list.
I mean, there's something heartbreaking about having a core group of people that you think are honest and hardworking and that represent the community. Whenever somebody falls out or off of that wagon, it's always very, very heartbreaking. But it's also always great when you find somebody that, you know, that walks the walk and talks the talk that you can add to that wagon of your experts. So, I mean, it's kind of a yin yang, kind of an up and down thing. But I think it's definitely emotionally significant when you lose or gain somebody off of that card of credibility.
And I think that links back into what we were talking about earlier, that you have to find your tribe. And maybe your tribe isn't nearby you. Maybe you need to go to the internet. Maybe you need to travel. Maybe you need to hang out on Whale Club TeamSpeak or something. I don't know where your tribe is, but you need to find them. And I think we found it here today. The price of Bitcoin is still $98.98. I'm not sure that we're going to go over 10,000, as much fun as it's been to watch it. So I think we're going to head this podcast to the close. But first, just want to go through everybody. Blake, where can people find out more about you? What are you working on right now?
Well, people can find me on Twitter at Bitcoin Blake. I probably have the least active Twitter of anybody that you have ever seen. I almost never tweet, but if I do, hopefully it's good stuff. Kind of behind the scenes right now. I usually try to take summers with the family, getting into starting up a few projects that I can't talk about right now. But as I am on the show more regularly as the winter months get, you know, more here, I'll be able to do that. So I'm just kind of happy to be back on the network after a long hiatus, and hopefully you'll be seeing more of me with my ninja hands going like this and talking all excited. So
all the dogs are barking, telling me the mailman's here and they want to walk. Gabriel D. Vine, where can people find out more about what you're up to?
I am relatively active on Twitter. I did a poll today, so we'll see what the result of that is, just about where people think this bull run's going. At Gabriel D. Vine. I also make appearances here on the World Crypto Network as often as I can. I have also been working under behind the scenes like Blake. Now that the Bitcoin price is so high, I'm officially a multi-thousandaire. I've been eating takeout. I bought an extra box of Q-tips and more undies, so I don't have to do laundry as often, and I got an extra box of laundry detergent. So I'm basically living the life now. I mean, you know, another 50 or 60,000 and I'll be, you know, getting a used Honda.
That is the truth of the Bitcoin. It teaches you to save. If you're going to splurge, you're going to get something like shoes or takeout. And finally, Andy, where can people find out about what you're up to?
Right. And I'm going to go out and buy some Tide. No more generic for me with this $10,000 Bitcoin. As for what I'm doing, Tide is the best, always has been. I am at CryptoGoldCentral.com. I've been in business now almost 3 months, and come get a free trial subscription. I am writing like crazy all day long, podcasting. It's so much fun. I'm at Andy_Hoffman_CG. And of course, I am now doing my weekly show on the World Crypto Network. I am pulling Edward Blake, the Renegade Investor, out of his vacation to do a one-on-one with him on Thursday. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, I met that guy. It was funny. I saw him in Germany, and I was like, I recognize you, but I have no idea from where. And turns out because I watched the Vortex Bitcoin News show. And I'm Thomas Hunt. You can follow me on Twitter at MadBitcoins. Just want to show you this chart one more time. As we're signing off, it's probably going to go crazy and break the 10,000. So you guys keep watching the chart. just because we're not on doesn't mean that you can stop watching the chart.
Well, the Asians are waking up right now to see what happened during the day, and that's exactly what I expect to happen the next hour or two. Let's see what happens.
All right, well, let's keep watching the chart, and then as always, you can check us out at the World Crypto Network. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. That helps more people find the show, and to subscribe to this channel. We have about 44,000 subscribers. It's really exciting. If we can get to 100,000 subscribers, YouTube will talk to us personally. I know that doesn't matter to you guys, but that would mean a lot to us. But
we'll call them up and be like, "What's up, YouTube?" And YouTube really well. Like, you're buying.
Change the color of YouTube, like maybe have a gray background, or maybe you could make it orange for Bitcoin. But you can donate right here on the World Crypto Network. You could pause this video and send it right to that QR code, even with the Bitcoin logo in the middle. It still works. Amazing QR code technology. But thanks so much for watching. We're at 99.09. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.